In light of easing trade tensions, a Fed that's clearly on the sidelines, the guidance going forward should be positive. That should help propel stocks further.
I think overall, those with equity exposure, they will sit, they will wait, they'll be patient, they'll listen to hear what's going on with earnings. I think the move thereafter is not, do we go to cash? I think there's a tremendous opportunity finally that presents itself, and it's geographically based. Do you have the opportunity to finally diversify, rebalance outside the U.S. with a degree of confidence?
But you don't think it's prudent I mean, look, Stephanie Link has been selling some pieces of positions. She's been taking some profits in names like Apple and looking to deploy that cash in some of the laggards. Yeah, what's wrong with that strategy?
There's nothing wrong with it. You're not going to like. You're not going to like my response. My response is portfolios are like fingerprints. They're unique to every individual. So I don't know what Stephanie has in her portfolio. Maybe by nature of Apple continuing to appreciate, she needs to do some selling. That is very common in a portfolio. I don't think Stephanie is selling Apple believing that Apple is going to endure a 10 to 15%.
She's not. She's just taking a little bit of profit. She's taking a little bit of profit because she has to do it. She's made that point clear.
Well, okay.
So you're right. I didn't like your answer.
But it's unique to Stephanie. So you could say that there are others that are.
But if Stephanie, if let's just say Stephanie represents the investor out there who's watching and has had big gains in a stock like Apple or XYZ company that's up 50%, like Microsoft.
Okay.
All right, is up 50%. Or Facebook, which is up its own 50%. What's wrong with booking a little bit of that gain, not selling the whole position, take some profits and look elsewhere in a market that's appreciated a lot, and then you have some stocks that haven't done as well. And there's a catch-up trade in those names. Okay, so what is wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it. I like your usage of the term looking somewhere else. As long as you're looking somewhere else and can find that opportunity, great. I think that's a good strategy.
I'm not saying put the money under the mattress, do nothing.
Well, I think there's a lot of people who come on this network that say that's the right move, that you want to go to cash. I think you're looking for other opportunities. It began this conversation between you and I by saying you could look at emerging markets, you could look at Europe, you could look at a lot of developed economies for the first time in years and find opportunities. But back to your comments with Stephanie on Apple, there's nothing wrong with it. For me personally, I do not feel that I want to shave a position in Microsoft or a position in Apple because I believe 6 to 12 months from now, I'll just be buying it back at a near or higher price.
And I'm just suggestive of any of those, let's say the top 10 of the biggest big name gainers that are likely in the portfolios of our viewers. You see the kind of gains you've had. You attempt to answer or at least entertain the questions that I've asked, whether some of these have gotten too expensive, whether there could be a correction in the very early part of 2020, and saying maybe I should just look at some of these positions that I've had the success in and see where the opportunities now truly lie if I think certain parts of the market have gotten too expensive.
So good. You know what? Just a minute ago, maybe 30 seconds ago, you had the Dow gainers on the screen right there, right? And 3 of the top 4 were Cisco, Boeing, and 3M. Now, I'm going to leave 3M aside because I'm not interested. Cisco and Boeing, love them. Bought some more Boeing today. I know we're going to talk about it.
3M, is its own obviously unique story. By the way, Stephen Tusa took it off of a sell rating today, and that's why that stock's likely getting a boost.
Okay, but obviously that's been vaporized over the past several years. But the point driving that if you want to trim, and Stephanie's not here, so we've got to be careful. I know she likes Boeing, all right? We've talked about Boeing with her a lot. At this price, news today that, I think is a little bit consequential, not entirely consequential, but a little bit. I've decided to buy some for clients who are underinvested there. So you absolutely, if you're Stephanie, if you're me, if you're Joe, if you're any of us, and you're trimming something, there are places to put it where you don't have to say, oh, it's too expensive.
Well, Stephanie mentioned that she was putting the money that she was trimming from Apple into NVIDIA, which I think is a great strategy right now, given that NVIDIA appears to technically have regained its upward momentum. So I applaud that. I think
so has Cisco, by the way.
Not to the degree that
No. But here's what I want to say. Cisco is not anywhere near as expensive as NVIDIA, okay? Cisco is, you want to be a value investor? Buy some Cisco. You want to be a growth investor? Buy some NVIDIA. God bless both of us.
Brenda Vingello.
I agree with Joe's earlier point, and one thing I think about geographic exposure, and I don't think we can ignore it because it's been an easy trade to be long the S&P 500, and that's the only place you needed to be. But the exception to that was in 2017 when the global economy was really doing well, and if we see a resurgence in the global economy, particularly if China continues to stabilize and reaccelerate the growth, I think you could see a shift back to things like emerging market equity. So I think it's important to stay diversified and to look to other parts of the world in terms of deciding where to put the money that you're taking out of the large cap stocks that have driven so much of the market returns this year.
Do we think that 2020 is going to be the year again, Josh, of the U.S., or is it going to be the year where the rest of the world has its catch-up moment, if you want to call it that, whereas the emerging markets or the Europe trade, which may have more relative value than exists here,
I think it's really tough to say. International outperformance will typically be accompanied by weakness in the dollar and/or strength in the foreign currency. That's always a big factor in those moments of outperformance of overseas stocks. The other thing I would say is it tends to be streaky. So when you do see international outperform the U.S., usually that's part of like a 3 to 5 year moment. It's rarely like 1 year and then the whole thing falls apart. So it's been a very long time. To answer your question, though, European equities are selling at a 25% discount to United States stocks. We all understand the reasons why. Nobody has to tweet at me. We know less technology, et cetera, et cetera. But you're being compensated for the risk in overseas stocks, I think, even given the differential in economic growth, demographic, et cetera. So European stocks just broke a 20-year high. This was a high that was set in the year 2000 when I was 23 years old. I'm now 57 years old. We are now breaking through that high. This is something that a lot of people haven't been talking about this year, but that is a new bull market for a very large portion of the world that's underperformed for a long time. Japan is breaking its downtrend. Chinese stocks had a good year, believe it or not, despite all the trade headwinds, et cetera. And emerging markets might have the fastest earnings growth worldwide by region in 2020, faster than the United States. So these are very interesting ideas. These are ideas that most people aren't paying attention to. It's a Vanguard survey of portfolios. U.S. investors are 80% U.S. stocks on average, which means half are more in terms of their equity allocation. We're going the other way. We're overweight international stocks. We're underweight U.S. large cap. I think it'll look smart. It may not look smart in the first 3 months of the year, but we're managing portfolios for people over 20 and 30 years, and we're looking for better risk-adjusted returns, better expected returns, and not investing in the rearview mirror based on what worked best over the last 3 years.
And that's the type of supportive commentary that you have not been able to present in the last couple of years outside of the U.S. You finally can do that now walking into January of 2020. But I think to answer the question, if U.S. outperforms in 2020, doesn't it really come down to what Josh mentioned before? Apple up nearly 80% year to date. Facebook up near 60%, Microsoft up 55%. Isn't it really the direction of these mega cap technology names that's going to define if the U.S. is going to outperform or not? I think that's where the focus has to be. What does technology do in 2020? We'll find out shortly.
Well, but it's the FANGs and these other big names you're saying that have to perform.
It's the mega cap. It's the mega cap, and maybe if
it's not value tech.
No,
Cisco and Intel aren't going to carry the market higher.
No,
it's going to be the Microsofts and the Apples and the Facebooks and
hopefully Amazon.
Why does it have to be either or? I feel like we always do that. It's either or. Why can't Microsoft, Apple, Amazon continue to zoom?
Because of the market cap weighting.
So you're going to say, and I'm not disagreeing with you. You're saying the passive ETFs that $1 comes in and 7 cents goes to Apple. I agree with you, but I don't see that that's exclusionary to Intel or Cisco.
He's not making the point that it's exclusionary, but you're not. You can't just have Cisco and Intel lead the way in tech at the expense of these other stocks and expect the market to have any meaningful appreciation.
Didn't we see that in September?
It's not at the expense of
September.
So Jim's right.
For a short period of time, does that work? Of course. Is it going to carry you the distance of the year ahead?
You're asking a legitimate question. My answer is, I think it can, Scott. I don't think there's a definite reason why it can't. If you want to say a definite reason why it can't, what Joe's saying about ETFs and the fact that $1 comes in and probably 30 cents of it goes to the FANG names, that's a factually correct statement. But I think it is possible over a sustained period for value stocks to outperform growth. I think the reason it sounds so outlandish is that the last 12 years it's been the exact opposite. That's factual as well.
You're not the only one placing that bet, clearly, as this pickup of recent, you want to call it recent, in value stocks. Some think it can last for a while.
Hey guys, the stocks that we're talking about now as the market leaders and the growth stocks were value stocks 5 years ago. Apple and Microsoft were 12 times earnings. They were literally in every value, rules-based index and ETF, or value managers' active portfolio. They became the market-leading growth stocks, but they started as that happens all the time.
All right, let's talk Boeing. Those shares higher today on word. CEO Dennis Muhlenberg is out effective immediately. Our Phil LeBeau following that story, as you would expect, and he joins us from Chicago. And Phil, nobody's going to say they're surprised by the news itself, though Some may say they're surprised by the timing, given there were expectations that he may still be in the job at least until the MAX was recertified.
I would say it's the deterioration of the relationship between Boeing and the FAA. That was really the final straw that broke the camel's back. And that has happened over the last week and a half. Go back to the meeting in Washington between Dennis Muhlenberg and Steve Dickson, the head of the FAA, where Dickson basically said, you come in with no expectations, you come in making no demands. This is how it's going to happen. And it's going to happen on our time frame. It was a dressing down. It was a public dressing down of a CEO. And then they had to stop production of the 737 MAX. I mean, it's been a cascading effect here over the last week and a half of bad news upon bad news for Boeing. And the board finally said, we've got to make a change here. So the new CEO, effective January 13th, will be David Calhoun, who has been the executive chairman at Boeing. He will transition into the role of president and CEO. And if you're looking at Calhoun and you're saying, well, what's different with Calhoun than with Muhlenberg? I mean, he was on the board. Didn't he sign off on all of these moves? He immediately realizes there needs to be a change at Boeing. And I've got some fresh reporting for you here, Scott. I have heard from several sources that not only has Mr. Calhoun reached out to the head of the FAA this morning and said, we want to be regulated, we welcome rigorous oversight. He has started calling and has been having conversations with airline CEOs. And this is something that Dennis Muhlenberg has not been doing for several months. I mean, there may be an occasional call here or there, but the relations have broken down between Boeing and their airline customers. David Calhoun has come in. He's called the FAA. He is calling airline CEOs. He is sending a very clear message to the important constituents who he has to deal with. New day is coming at Boeing. Now, is it going to happen overnight? Are we going to come back next week at the beginning of the year and say, well, everything's hunky-dory at Boeing? No. They've still got a lot of hurdles to clear when it comes to the 737 MAX. But this is a change in tenor that is long overdue at Boeing. And David Calhoun comes in with the approach of, here we go. New sheriff in town, new approach to doing things, and this is how we're going to start rebuilding the company.
In some respects, it's a cosmetic move, at least in the near term. Obviously, it doesn't change any of the timeline issues that the MAX is facing.
That is correct, but it's not purely cosmetic in terms of, look, it's not Dennis Muhlenberg who's running the company. David Calhoun has vast experience when it comes to working and running conglomerates. Look, he ran GE Infrastructure for a number of years. So this is no Johnny-come-lately who's simply going to come in and say, well, we understand things are going to be different here at Boeing. I think he comes in, and while he may not have publicly laid it out yet, I bet you there will be a game plan that he has already been working on and will eventually lay out not only for Boeing employees, but also for Wall Street, for the airline customers. Clearly, with the FAA, he has already started working on that, and he's also going to lay it out for the public. Boeing is a company that has really suffered, particularly in the last couple of months, Scott, and I think Calhoun is putting together a game plan.
Well, he needs to, because I think I heard you say earlier on one of the other programs, and I can't remember exactly which airline you said, maybe it was American, which has already started placing orders for the competitors.
It was United.
Airplanes.
It was United.
Oh, it was United.
And that was United ordering the A321 XLR, which is a middle-of-the-market aircraft that it used to be what the 757 would fly. Well, there is no 757, so they were going to come up with a replacement. Boeing was going to come up with a replacement. They were going to announce the plans at the Paris Air Show. That was the expectation, and then from there you would see orders start to come in, even though the plane had not yet been off the drawing board. Well, they've been so consumed with the 737 MAX that they never did that. And as a result, when Airbus came out with the A321 XLR, they started racking up orders. That's an indication of Boeing suffering long-term because the MAX has just been a crisis. As I said this morning, they have not managed the crisis. The crisis has managed them. Yeah. And that has been one fallout of this. Long-term, Boeing has suffered.
And that was well said, the way you had put that. Phil, we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
You bet.
Yep, that's Phil LeBeau in Chicago. So, Jimmy, you said you were buying some shares today.
Yep, did buy some more. First off, mea culpa, I should have sold these shares 2 months ago in the 380s. That was a mistake on my part. Now, having said that, the reason this is not a cosmetic change. I just got to stress that.
I only said that in the
I'm not coming at you, brother.
Next few days, it feels cosmetic because the timeline issues are the timeline issues.
You're correct.
It's not like a new man changes the timeline issues.
You're correct, but what he does change is investor relations, okay? Because investors, of which I am one, totally lost confidence with Mr. Muhlenberg. It was in the summer he said that this thing will fly by the end of the year. He doubled down on that in the second quarter earnings call and tripled down on it in the third quarter earnings call. He had no information from the FAA on which to base that. It was a swag. It was a guess. It was ridiculous. So now you've got somebody who's going to come in, and amongst the airlines and regulators, he also has to buttress support with investors, which he will.
Okay, good stuff. Here's what else is coming up on the Halftime Report.
Another raging bull on Apple. Wedge Bush upping its price target on the stock. The desk debates it in our call of the day. Plus, the investment committee is ready to answer your questions in Ask Halftime. To reach us, go to cnbc.com/halftime or tweet us. The Halftime Report with Scott Wapner and the Traders is back in 2 minutes.
Morning, everyone.
I used to be a bit of a rubbish sleeper. I'd toss and turn all night, and somehow I could never find the comfy bit of the mattress. It was a proper nightmare. That's what brought me here, testing mattresses in the Which Test Lab. We use a custom-made barrel rolling machine to simulate a decade's worth of use. And the mattresses that perform best are the only ones we recommend for your bedroom.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
At Wix, we'll create your dream kitchen from design to show-off ready and take care of everything. And now, get up to 50% off showroom kitchen units. Book your free design appointment today. Cure your house embarrassment with Wix. Selected ranges excluded. See wix.co.uk.
Be honest, how much attention are you really paying to this advert? 25%? Maybe 30% if you're sitting in traffic and the kids have stopped arguing? What about 0%? Well, now's the time to give 0% attention, because for a limited time only, the entire Mini range is available with 0% APR. All you need to decide is which Mini is perfect for you. Good to know we've now got 100% of your attention. Search 0% Mini to find out more. Who's in? Minimum 25% deposit on 24-month select agreements for new models registered by 31st of December 2019 at participating retailers, subject to availability. Excludes Mini Electric. UK residents aged 18+. Guarantees may be required. Mileage and other conditions apply if you return the vehicle. T's and C's apply. Mini UK, a trading name of BMW UK Limited, is a credit broker, not a lender.
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year? I want a new phone. One with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18+. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
Whoops, Max's arm goes in the end zone. Touchdown underneath the crossbar.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium. Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Goes up, dart toward the end zone. Caught, ball, touchdown with a touchdown to the left corner. Bucs take the lead.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Everybody, I'm Brian Sullivan, and here's what's happening at this hour. Iran beginning new operations at a heavy water nuclear reactor. The move designed to intensify pressure on Europe to find an effective way around U.S. sanctions, which blocked Iran's oil sales abroad. Syrian opposition activists releasing a video showing the recent devastation of a town in northern Syria. It was subject to a continuous bombardment and air raids over the past week, causing massive destruction to its civilian infrastructure. Flooding at Fort Lauderdale International Airport shut down the airport as passengers were trying to leave for the holidays. Over 6 inches of rain fell in the area after massive storms rolled through. The airport has since reopened. And another big free agent signing in baseball. The Toronto Blue Jays signing pitcher Hyun Jin Ryu to a 4-year, $80 million contract. The former LA Dodger lefty was the starting pitcher for the National League in the All-Star game. That is your CNBC News update at this hour. Back to you guys in the halftime report, Scott.
Sully, appreciate it. Thank you, Brian Sullivan. Well, Wall Street's biggest Apple bull is getting even more bullish on the stock. Wedbush raises its price target today to $350. That is 25% higher where the stock currently trades, saying 2020 will be the year of the 5G super cycle. Shares hitting another all-time high today. It's our call of the day. All right, we've talked about sort of these big cap tech names, but 25%?
If only Apple could innovate, I would own even more of this stock. So I appreciate the Wall Street research. When the stock starts to fall, you start to see the neutral notes come out. Then when it has a rally, everyone goes back and comes out with new buy recs. The analysts tend to go up and down based on how the stock is doing and whether or not they want to be perceived as having been bullish in it all along. I try not to pay attention to that stuff. The rationale behind this call with the 5G super cycle, I feel like that applies to a lot of stocks, and Apple may or may not be one of the bigger beneficiaries, but that wouldn't be a reason to buy it.
If we've made the case for the last many months that Apple has appreciated the way it has, not necessarily on fundamentals.
But that's not
right?
true. I don't
Wait,
agree with that, though.
Some fundamentals, not all, but 70-something%. Isn't the 5G ramp or the 5G story already in the stock to some extent?
Yes, and it's beyond that. It's not that the company had a 75% fundamental improvement this year. Like
That's what I mean. I'm not saying it's up,
right.
like the fundamentals suck, but the stock's up.
You're right.
70-something%.
It's just not quite that linear. Sentiment has improved way more than the fundamentals have. And that happens all the time, and it's part of the investing puzzle. If it were as simple as Apple's going to grow earnings 7% this year, therefore we should get a 7% return out of the stock, there'd be nothing to have a show about. So we know that this type of thing swings too far in both directions. I think sentiment around Apple in 2013, 2014 was very low. It was a couple of years after Jobs was gone. They weren't releasing new products. They were doing like upgraded iPads. The stock was selling at like 12 times earnings, 10 times netting out the cash. Now we have the opposite situation. It's 21 times earnings. It's not even a cheap stock for its category anymore. And maybe people have gotten too excited about services, 5G, and of course the launch of, who could forget, the AirPods, which to me are the product of the year in technology. But so if we're too excited now, what do you do with it? You sell the stock? My answer is no. You accept the fact that you could see a rollback of some of the gains in 19, but that's what it means to be a long-term investor. You don't get to be the prom king every single year or the prom queen. You have to accept that you're going to own great companies that will go through tough stretches, and that's just part of the equation. And I think if you're reacting to analyst buy and sell calls, what you end up doing with a great stock like Apple is just a whipsaw. You're chopping up your own returns.
If Apple is up 25% over the next 12 months, boy, I can't wait for 2020's gains and returns in the overall market, because that's what you're going to get.
You know, I can't wait to see by the end of the week. Yeah, look, I'm going to take your point. I'm going to extend it. I can't wait to see by the end of the week if somebody comes out and puts a $400 target on it. I mean, last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, we were on the show, somebody came out with a $305 target. Do you remember this like 2 weeks ago? We went, oh, wow. Now $350. I mean, look, it's everything Josh is saying. It's going up until it doesn't. I'll draw a line in the sand there. I don't think it's hitting $350 next year. I think this is a case where we have borrowed some gains from 2020 into 2019. I'm not selling it here. I think it goes above 300, but 350 is just too far. A mid-20s multiple on a stock that's then going to be 1.5 trillion. I just don't see it happening.
You own it, Brenda?
We do own it. I think it's important, though, to remember that this time last year, there were a lot of people that were really disappointed in Apple. They stopped divulging how many iPhones are being sold. There were a lot of questions about the story and what's happening. So it's obviously had an enormous appreciation since then. But this isn't a company that's completely unfallible. So to buy it after it's up 80%. we're going to stick with our position. Are we going to be adding more? Probably not. But it's impossible to time, to Josh's point, how these things ebb and flow. But if you're a long-term investor, I think you stick with it. But in terms of buying more, you have to ask who that incremental buyer is going to be.
It's not like you never get an opportunity, though. It's not like you never get an opportunity in a name like
the
this.
company's going to buy $100-something billion worth of stock. We know this.
Stock was sub 150.
Stock was sub
in calendar
150.
year 2019. Don't forget that.
In January.
This gives you opportunities from time to time. If you miss it, you miss it.
The first week of the year, Apple traded awfully. Look, I think Josh is going to think I'm disagreeing with him, but we're actually going to end up saying the same thing. On a fundamental basis, Apple so far year to date had flat EPS, revenue is down 2%, gross margin is down 2%, free cash flow is down 8%, capex was down 20%, but yet the stock is up 80%.
Why?
Because I think that's indicative of an overall change in the way markets present themselves.
Well, in terms of this individual story, though, why is it up that much? Because people continue to place big bets on services and 5G.
I think
this note suggests that 5G is going to be such a huge ramp that this stock has another 25% in it, where I'm wondering how much of that bump is already in the stock. How else would it have gone up as much as it did? Based on all of the metrics that you just cited, that in and of itself would never lead to a stock being up 80% in a calendar year.
Because the last part of that formula is that the markets present themselves in a different way. I was in Apple twice this year. I was in Apple down around the 150 level, got out at a higher level, and got back in once again. Technical decisions. Those decisions had nothing to do with fundamentals. I got back into Apple somewhere around 215. It appeared to break out at that point. So I think you have to give consideration to technical formations, momentum in the market. I think it's so incredibly important, and it's indicative of what Apple has become. I also think, and I'm going to credit Josh with this because I've heard him say this multiple times on the network, I think the relationship and the navigation of the relationship between Tim Cook and President Trump has also contributed to Apple being viewed somewhat in a safe haven technology capacity as it surrounds the U.S.-China trade tensions.
All right. We're going to take a break. Coming up, options bulls are betting on one big material stock. It's up already 10% in just 1 month. Now, Pete Najarian joins us for that trade and more in unusual activity. First, though, let's give you a check on the S&P sectors. The S&P right now is up 4 points, led by energy and industrials. We are back right after this.
You know it's out there somewhere, but you just keep missing out. I'm talking about your dream job. Now it's easier to find and land your next role with the LinkedIn app. Build connections, keep in touch, and be the first to hear about new jobs. LinkedIn has more openings than applicants. And sometimes all it takes is one LinkedIn connection to land the job that's right for you. Don't miss out. Get your next big break and find the job meant for you. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
Be honest, how much attention are you really paying to this advert? 25%? Maybe 30% if you're sitting in traffic and the kids have stopped arguing? What about 0%? Well, now's the time to give 0% attention, because for a limited time only, the entire Mini range is available with 0% APR. All you need to decide is which Mini is perfect for you. Good to know we've now got 100% of your attention. Search 0% Mini to find out more. Who's in? Minimum 25% deposit on 24-month select agreements for new models registered by 31st of December 2019 at participating retailers, subject to availability. Excludes Mini Electric. UK residents aged 18+. Guarantees may be required. Mileage and other conditions apply if you return the vehicle. T's and C's apply. Mini UK, a trading name of BMW UK Limited, is a credit broker, not a lender.
What was your favorite binge-worthy podcast of 2019? Here's one of ours.
Not so long ago, Stanford dropout turned CEO Elizabeth Holmes was a rising star in Silicon Valley.
On The Dropout, ABC News reporter Rebecca Jarvis tells the unbelievable true story of Elizabeth Holmes, who went from being the world's youngest self-made female billionaire to facing 20 years in prison.
Her company Theranos was poised to change healthcare forever.
She would have been the next Steve Jobs.
Search A Dropout on TuneIn to hear what the hype is all about.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
As we play out the 2010s, TuneIn's looking back at the music trends that defined the decade.
Hello from the other side.
The 2010s saw yet another revolution in the way we listen to music. With music fans giving up CDs and digital downloads for streaming services and internet radio like TuneIn. At the same time, vinyl sales continue to rise to levels not seen since the format's original decline. Keep listening to TuneIn for more trends of the 2010s.
The Russell 2000 is on pace to finish the year up over 20%. According to our data partners at Kensho, after similar one-year runs, the index adds another 8% the following year. But that underperforms the S&P 500, which adds an average of 13% in a 12-month period. For more, go to cnbc.com/Kensho.
All right, welcome back. Shares of Albemarle are showing gains this month. Options traders are betting on a move even higher from these levels. There is the stock. It's up more than 11% in just 1 month. Pete Nigerian from Minneapolis is with us now with his trade. Hey, Pete.
Hey, how are you, Scott? I like the vest, by the way. Albemarle's been a really interesting stock. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. But this stock, Scott, you talk about the last month. If you go back just a couple of years ago, this is a stock that was trading $140 a share, and now here it is cut in half, trading in the 70s, the very low 70s. So it's interesting to see that the bulls are coming back, and they're starting to show up, and the January 75 calls are being bought. Those were about 80 cents on average. About 2,600 of those were bought. And then all of a sudden, they started buying the January 80 calls as well. Those are only about trading for about 30 or 40 cents. So buying both. Now, this was not part of a spread. It wasn't part of anything. They came at two separate times, but quite a bit of buying looking for that upside. I like what we're seeing in this name. Can it break up to the upside? When you look at where it's trading on a PE level, it certainly looks like a stock that maybe could start to make that move once again to the upside. So I jumped on these calls. I'll probably be in these for about 3 weeks. Now, I got a second one as well for you. Take a look at Luckin Coffee. We talk about this all the time. We've been talking about this. One of the IPOs that's really worked this year in 2019, it's had a really nice run. Well, you go back to November 20th. Since that time, that stock has hit 5 different times with unusual activity. Stock was trading 26th on November 20th, and here it is today, moving faster and moving up to that $35 level where it is right now. They were buying the January 36 calls today, about 2,600 of those for about $1.50. But as the stock has moved higher, the stock was 32 when they started buying these. Now it's pushing on that 52-week high of 35 and actually moving into that level. So I own the stock. I love what I'm seeing in this name right now. I still think there's plenty of upside. I think when it's all said and done, they are going after Starbucks in China. They're winning in China, and that's why I think this stock's got a lot more room to run to the upside.
Hey, Pete. Happy birthday to your pops, the legend. 92 years old yesterday. That's awesome.
That is really, really nice of you. Really, really nice of you. Really appreciated. The guy is a legend in the transplant field and a wonderful father, and I'm just lucky that he's still around, and we still get a chance to talk almost every day. It's part of the reason I moved back to Minnesota.
We're all lucky, Pete. Thanks, man. Send him our best.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right. That's
Appreciate it, man.
Pete
Thanks.
Nigerian. All right. The traders next are ready to answer your questions. We've got Microsoft, Amazon, Twitter, and more in just 2 minutes.
There's a lot of talk about value out there.
At Asda this Christmas, a whole basted turkey is just £4 a kilo, and our Grower Selection vegetables are only 20p per pack. Get a broccoli, 1 kilogram of carrots, and 500 grams of parsnips or sprouts. Asda, let's make Christmas extra special. Selected stores subject to availability. Broccoli, 360 grams, ends 26th of December.
Be better informed, be better prepared. The Better Network is on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search BETR and start hanging out with me and my guys in the desert weekday afternoons. The Better Network is now on TuneIn.
Looks, catches his arm, goes in the end zone. Touchdown underneath the crossbar.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium. Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Goes up, dart toward the end zone. Caught, ball, touchdown with a touchdown to the left corner. Bucs take the lead.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Hi, I'm Tom Haberstroh, host of the Haberstroh podcast. I'm partnering with TuneIn to answer a few questions and get you prepped for NBA Christmas Day. I wanted to start an NBA podcast because I wanted to take you behind the scenes and hear it from the people that make the NBA tick. It's the most intimate platform for the most intimate sport, and podcasts are the perfect medium to capture that intimacy. Search The Haberstroh to listen to new episodes every Friday throughout the NBA season on TuneIn.
Spend Christmas Day listening to the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Featuring 5 big matchups on the holiday schedule. Unwrap the action starting at 12 Eastern when the Celtics take on the Raptors in Toronto. Followed by the Bucks and the 76ers at 2:30. The holiday cheers continue with the Rockets and Warriors at 5 and the Clippers and Lakers at 8. And a showdown between the Pelicans and Nuggets at 10:30. 'Tis the season with the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
TuneIn is remembering the biggest college sports moments of the decade, like this one from 2011, when UConn point guard Kemba Walker hits the game-winning jumper in the Big East tournament against Pittsburgh.
Here's Walker with 4, stops, moves left, steps back, the jumper, it's good! At the buzzer, and Kemba Walker has done it again!
Search college sports on TuneIn to be there for the moments that go down in history.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
All right, let's answer some of your questions now. First up for Joe. Mahendra in London, should I buy... See, this is the question we started with. Should I buy Microsoft at its present price?
That's a tough question. I don't know what's in the portfolio, but
you manage this guy's money. He asks you the question. What do you tell him?
So if he has limited ownership of software technology companies, yes, this is a premier name in terms of software. Mega cap.
Do you buy it at the present price, though, or do you wait for a pullback in there?
If he is missing software technology in his portfolio, unequivocally, yes. If he has other software technology names in his portfolio, he does not have room for Microsoft at this valuation.
So if he doesn't own Microsoft, he should buy it here regardless of the price.
It depends if he
doesn't own any software stocks, okay? Let's get off the nuance. If he doesn't own any software stocks, he should buy Microsoft at the price it's trading at today.
Correct.
Thank you.
Said that already, by the way.
Just making sure. All right, Jim, for you, from Scott in Detroit. Cleveland Cliffs. How do you feel about Cliffs now they have acquired AK Steel?
Yeah, well, the acquisition hasn't closed yet, but it will, and management will go through. They'll clean up costs. They'll clean up the balance sheet. They've got a new Toledo plant opening this summer. You should own Cliffs in 2020.
All right, Brenda from in California. What are your thoughts? Oh, what happened there? What are your thoughts on Amazon, which hasn't gone anywhere in 18 months?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the few FANG stocks that has not kept up with the broader market this year. You know, the disappointment out of last quarter when they gave guidance that was a little below what everybody was expecting in the fourth quarter. But I think this is a company that has either you believe in what they're doing or you don't. It's hard to value. They're spending a lot. They're investing a lot in logistics, which some people are nervous about. But at the end of the day, they have AWS and advertising, which are incredibly profitable components of the business that are growing quickly. Top line is still there. Consumer is strong. There's a reason to still like the stock here.
Okay. And finally, Josh, for you, a question all of us are wondering. What are you doing with Twitter?
Yeah.
And will you be on billions in 2020?
So Twitter just got into the post-earnings gap. There's no real resistance there until about 38. So I would stick with it. I'm in the stock. Billions, script writing is underway. Some shooting is already underway. Can't reveal anything other than Brian and David are cooking up an incredible season 5. You should definitely be watching.
Okay, stay tuned, in other words.
Oh, yeah.
Simplify that. All right, straight ahead. How one Wall Street veteran is helping pave the way for new talent. It's a great story. Coming up on the Halftime Report, which is back right after this.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
With 2020 on the horizon,
TuneIn continues looking back at the stories that shaped the 2010s.
In 2012, Black Lives Matter is born after the killing of an unarmed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. In 2015, the European refugee crisis sees an unprecedented number of asylum seekers entering the EU after fleeing conflict regions like Syria. And in 2017, the Me Too movement inspires a new wave of social justice.
Search news on TuneIn to be listening when the next decade's big headlines break.
As we play out the 2010s, TuneIn's looking back at the music trends that defined the decade.
That's why I need a one dance.
The 2010s was the decade of the surprise album drop, where artists from Beyonce, Drake, and Frank Ocean to Radiohead, U2, and the late David Bowie skipped the traditional promotion cycle to bring their music directly to fans with little to no warning. Keep listening to TuneIn for more trends of the 2010s.
Introducing a new podcast, ESPN Daily. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Mina Kimes. Listen now to ESPN Daily on TuneIn.
TuneIn is remembering the biggest college sports moments of the decade, like this one from 2016, when Tennessee quarterback Josh Dobbs throws a Hail Mary to the end zone as time expires against Georgia.
4 seconds to go. Dobbs drops back, looks, loads up, fires long for the end zone. The pass is going to be caught by Tennessee. Tennessee wins! Caught it by Tennessee, Jawan Jennings. Jennings makes the catch in the end zone on the Hail Mary.
Search college sports on TuneIn to be there for the moments that go down in history.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
All right, we're back. CNBC has partnered with Acorns, the saving and investing app, on a financial wellness and education initiative called Invest in You. Ready, set, grow. Joining us now is Troy Prince. He's the founder and CEO of Wall Street Bound. Troy is a 20-year-plus Wall Street veteran and is now on a mission to provide the next generation the training required to become successful on Wall Street. He is with us right now. It's good to see you. Where did all this come from? Where did the idea for Wall Street Bound come from?
So I was raised in the Bronx, and I found the markets very early. In high school, maybe the second year of high school, and I read Jack Schwager's book, Market Wizards, and it basically changed my life. I knew immediately things were different.
You knew right then and there you wanted to be on Wall Street?
Right then. So by 16, I was cold calling at Shears & Lehman. By 17, I was at Solomon back office. The rest, as they say, is history. But fast forward many years later, I just began to notice that it was strange, me being in the front office, being a trader, that there weren't many that looked like me. And growing up in the Bronx, having friends, family, people in the neighborhood that I knew, smart as a whip, hungry, intelligent, put them in front of Monopoly, kill everyone in sight, that there was a disconnect. And so years later, remembering the story from Market Wizards of Richard Dennis and the Turtles, this idea that talent is distributed, what it takes beyond, let's say, the right school, the right zip code, it's out there. Let's find it. And I thought, okay, Troy, it's time to do this.
Time to try and give back. So you recruit and train the next generation. What makes a good recruit? What do you look for? Is it just an interest like you had when you were 16 years old in finance? What makes a good recruit?
That's part of it, and it's probably a start because, as you might imagine, most of the community where I'm recruiting from, typically underrepresented inner city, they're generally not as aware of the markets and finance as the rest of us may be. So interest is a big part in terms of the initial contact. But after that, at that point, a lot of it comes down to those qualities we know that success requires in the markets: intellectual curiosity, problem-solving skills, discipline, and using that as the basis of this personal journey, this journey of being in the markets, interacting with the markets, and every day the idea of the reality you synthesize in your head versus what the market is telling you.
You're also looking at college campuses,
That's
college
right.
programs for finance students.
That's right.
You need at least to have the acumen or the interest
Indeed.
that I want a career in
Indeed.
finance. I may
Indeed.
not know the bridge from the classroom to Wall Street, and you're trying to
create that path, exactly. Because it's important, I think, for Wall Street and for us as a finance community to have and to build these intentional pathways, because otherwise it does not exist. I work with students from, let's say from the South Bronx, where they don't grow up with the uncles that played golf with. They weren't on the lacrosse teams. So what is that?
The traditional networking.
The traditional networking path
haven't existed.
So part of what we have to do also is provide that social capital, those connections, to make this happen for them.
I got like 30 seconds left. How do people get involved? Where do you get more information? How do you do this?
Please go to my website, wallstreetbound.org. We're looking for partners to join me on this mission of recruiting talent. This story applies to not just the Bronx, not Brooklyn, but to talent everywhere it exists that's being underutilized. wallstreetbound.org, and send us a message, and we'll definitely respond.
That is Troy Prince, Wall Street Bound. Best of luck to you. By the way, go on our website. We have a story up there right now on cnbc.com/invest in you. Great story about where Troy's come from, what he really hopes to do. And we should also note that NBC Universal and Comcast Ventures are investors in Acorns. Coming up, final trades.
Most people think of Verizon. You know it's out there somewhere, but you just keep missing out. I'm talking about your dream job. Now it's easier to find and land your next role with the LinkedIn app. Build connections, keep in touch, and be the first to hear about new jobs. LinkedIn has more openings than applicants. And sometimes all it takes is one LinkedIn connection to land the job that's right for you. Don't miss out. Get your next big break and find the job meant for you. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
Spend Christmas Day listening to the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Featuring 5 big matchups on the holiday schedule. Unwrap the action starting at 12 Eastern when the Celtics take on the Raptors in Toronto, followed by the Bucks and the 76ers at 2:30. The holiday cheers continue with the Rockets and Warriors at 5 and the Clippers and Lakers at 8. And a showdown between the Pelicans and Nuggets at 10:30. 'Tis the season with the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
With 2020 on the horizon, TuneIn continues looking back at the stories that shaped the 2010s.
In 2011, Osama bin Laden is captured and killed by U.S. Special Forces after a decade-long manhunt. In 2016, Donald Trump is elected the 45th President of the United States after securing 304 electoral votes over Hillary Clinton's 227. And in 2018, a UN report stating the world has 12 years to prevent irreversible climate change.
Search news on TuneIn to be listening when the next decade's big headlines break.
Be better informed, be better prepared. The Better Network is on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search BETR and start hanging out with me and my guys in the desert weekday afternoons. The Better Network is now on TuneIn.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
TuneIn is remembering the biggest college sports moments of the decade, like this one from 2016, when Tennessee quarterback Josh Dobbs throws a Hail Mary to the end zone as time expires against Georgia.
4 seconds to go. Dobbs drops back, looks, loads up, fires long for the end zone. The pass is going to be caught by Tennessee. Tennessee wins! Caught it by Tennessee. Jawan Jennings. Jennings makes the catch in the end zone on the Hail Mary.
Search college sports on TuneIn to be there for the moments that go down in history.
All right, we're back. Time for final trades. Brenda, you go first.
Emerging market equities, EEM, I think it's a good time to diversify away from U.S. large cap stocks.
Good having you with us this year. Happy holidays, Happy New Year. We will see you in the new year. Josh Brown.
Yep, still long Twitter. I like that it got back into the post-earnings gap. I'm sticking with it. I hope they find religion on ad sales next year.
All right. Farmer Jim.
Well, appropriately.
Man with the tie.
Caterpillar Tractor, the old name, Caterpillar Tractor, is just dying to break out to a 20-month high. Here's your opportunity.
All right.
Set your rules and plans in place for 2020. 255, I bought MasterCard in August, and that was rules-based. Approaching 300 now, still want to be long.
All right, good stuff. Thanks all. Thanks for watching as well. The exchange begins now.
And welcome to the exchange, everybody. I am Brian Sullivan. Got a big show ahead. Here's what's coming up. Boeing's Blues. It could be the most headline-grabbing C-suite shakeup of the year. The company firing its CEO as it struggles with the 737 MAX and regulators continue. What took so long? Who really is to blame in the Boeing debacle? We're going to dig in. Plus, the money overall, it just keeps flowing. $11 billion pouring into the S&P 500 ETF in just the last week. That, my friends, the fifth highest level of all time. So, will the market's new highs continue as investors play catch-up into the year-end? We'll dig into that. And celebrity chef and author Eric Ripert will join us live. We'll talk about feeding those in need through his charity work, the restaurant industry, the economy, the market, and so much more. It is going to be a big hour ahead. But we begin with that massive shakeup at what could be called certainly the corporate story of the year. No doubt the most important stock in the Dow. Boeing firing CEO Dennis Muilenburg over the 737 MAX crisis and poor communication with investors and regulators. It cost him his job. The removal is effective immediately, and now Chairman David Calhoun will take over as CEO in January. Now, some might say this is a complete 180 from what both Calhoun and Muilenburg said just last month.
From the vantage point of our board, Dennis has done everything right from the beginning. Remember, Dennis didn't create this problem, but from the beginning, he knew that MCAS should and could be done better.
Has there ever been a day where you're sitting around going, you know what, this is not working. It's not working. I got to get out of here. It's better for the company for me to leave.
Andrew, I think it's fair to say I've thought about it, but to be frank, that's not what's in my character. I don't see running away from a challenge, resigning as the right solution.
All right, let's bring in now CNBC.com airline reporter Leslie Josephs, as well as Jeff Sonnenfeld from the Yale School of Management, as well as a CNBC contributor. Jeff, first to you. Right move by Boeing, right time, overdone, too late?
It's a little late. It's an uncommon timing to have this kind of a transition take place right on the eve of the holiday is not that common. Unless there's some catastrophic current issue that's happening. Obviously, this is a crisis, but it's not catastrophic at the moment. Or unless there's some massive corruption and nobody's charging, at least nobody informed is charging that there's any integrity breakdown here, any fraud or anything. So it's unusual timing to have the CEO shot at sunset this suddenly and this time of year. But yes, a lot of people thought this might have happened already. I would have thought this would happen after the return to service came. Whenever that is, probably closer to mid-spring.
Yeah, Leslie, welcome. Is there any risk here? I mean, I think the argument for keeping Muilenburg was always, well, you can't replace the CEO at a time of crisis because, it just makes it sort of more disconnected internally. Obviously, the board felt very differently. What are you hearing?
Right, and he's been there for months through the crisis and saying, I'm an engineer, I want to see this through, I have a responsibility, I'm the CEO, this happened on my watch. But the board apparently couldn't take it anymore. They stood by him for months. Their relationship with the FAA has been tested over and over again, coming to a culmination a couple weeks ago in Washington with this very public dressing down with the new FAA administrator saying, no, we call the shots, and kind of flexing its muscles and making sure that Boeing knows who's in charge.
It feels like a little bit, maybe you don't want to editorialize, Leslie, maybe Jeff does, but it feels like there was some arrogance in the C-suite.
I think there's...
Go ahead, Leslie first, Jeff, and then you comment.
That's some things that we've been hearing. I mean, of course, in October, those two hearings in Congress, I mean, he was just eviscerated in front of the Hill, in front of lawmakers, victims' family members saying, why are you even still here? Please go home.
Jeff?
I think there was genuine authenticity and contrition, but he is overwhelmed. The sentiment, the staring down of those victims' families was pretty hard on him, and it should have been. It was a very difficult, painful experience. I think he was going for authentic contrition. He's an engineer. He's not some backslapping communications guy. This was a new space for him and not his strong suit. So I think that the cumulative effect of missing all these deadlines, last spring, over the summer. We thought we'd be late August, and then we thought in the fall, and then, of course, December. 4 of these in a row. I think Leslie's right that the cumulative effect of that, plus Steve Dixon, as you were both suggesting, to be admonished by your core regulator for getting in front of him yet again, that's not good. And then we saw the production shut down this past week on the on the 737 MAX, and his name is nowhere there in the announcements going out. Is not a good sign. In the board meeting, of course, this weekend without him. I talked to Dennis last week, and I don't believe he saw this coming. But I think a lot of other people watching are thinking this is not going in a path that was going his way. But again,
Jeff, in the same time that the New England Patriots have had one quarterback and one head coach, 16 years, Boeing now will have 6 CEOs. Another CEO was fired for a relationship with an employee, I don't know, about 10 years ago. David Calhoun will become the 6th CEO at a Dow component company in 16 years. Do you believe there is a cultural issue there?
No, none whatsoever. You had the best decade in the whole 100-year history of this company for the 10 years under Jim McNerney, and that was in the period of time that you're talking about. You did have the unfortunate situation where you had a CEO who had to Phil Condit was weirdly head of the Business Roundtable at the time that his was terrible misconduct. But also, it was followed by the cleanup guy, was a curmudgeonly old guy, Harry Stonecipher, who was accused of relationships in the office, which was ridiculous for him to get involved in that. But those were back-to-back. They're both short-term turnaround guys. And then a third guy who stepped in as the former CEO of HP, who was a very honorable guy, but he's only in there for these are 3 quick interims. That the permanent replacement stayed on for a long time intentionally. So Jim McNerney did a great job.
He did, and he was McNerney, Leslie, in that time was there for a decade. I mean, you wonder, and I know David Calhoun personally. He's a great guy, and he's been at Nielsen, and he was a CEO of GE Jet Engines. Great resume, but you wonder also, should they have maybe
turned around Caterpillar?
He did, and I know him personally, but should he have come? You wonder if they should have gone back to McNerney, who knows the company, who's got respect there. Calhoun's kind of an unknown entity inside the company.
He is an unknown, but as Jeffrey was just mentioning, he does have this incredible resume. And what people are looking for now is just kind of a change of CEO, like anyone but Dennis, because it was so poorly received. His words were so poorly received by the FAA and others. So you have someone it maybe wasn't at the helm of Boeing, but I mean, he's been on the board. He knows the business. He knows the aircraft business. And Boeing, as Jeffrey also was mentioning, is coming off of a monster decade. Both Boeing and Airbus, they have this incredible backlog, and I think the stock would be down a lot more if you weren't sitting on maybe more than 4,000 MAX planes in back order.
You wonder, Jeff. Listen, McNerney went to Yale. Okay, I think you've heard of that university. I'm guessing you know Mr. McNerney personally. He lives up in that area still, from what I understand. Do you think they reached out to him?
No, I know that he kept a distance from this factually. He didn't want to intervene. And I think that Calhoun, who's only 62, is a perfect person to turn to. He's a protege of McNerney. So if you're looking for the McNerney positive influence, he worked for McNerney. McNerney was back at GE. And there are others in the Boeing world that also had worked for McNerney back at GE. He hits the ground running. He ran a $60 billion business, 120,000 people in aviation and infrastructure at GE. But this is more than just Calhoun, who's doing everything right so far. By the way, as you know, he's reached out to the FAA and reached out to air carriers already today. But is that you have Larry Kellner, who was a former airline CEO, a former CFO, but an airline CEO, Continental Airlines, but he was also chairman of the audit committee here at Boeing. He knows what he's doing in terms of contact with the air carriers. And internally, you have a CFO who's a lot more than a bean counter. You have a fantastic the CFO, Greg Smith, is the culture carrier that really can speak to employees and as well as financial committee. So it's a great troika they have set up.
Good discussion there. Jeff Sonnenfeld of Yale. Jeff, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Leslie Josephs, thank you very much. We'll check out your story on CNBC.com. All right. The Santa Claus rally continues. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ hitting new record highs. Stop us if you've heard that before. But we're really seeing investors in the last week or so pile into stocks as the year ends, maybe trying to squeeze out every bit of gain they can or make up if they missed out. Check this out. The S&P 500 ETF, the SPY, had inflows of $11 billion last Friday. That was the largest move in years. Let's now bring in Steve Auth. He is Chief Investment Officer of Equities at Federated Investors, and our friend Sri Kumar, President of Sri Kumar Global Strategies. Great to see you in the daylight, Sri. We'll get to you in just a second. Steve, I'm going to start with you, though. A 3,500 target on the S&P 500. That's about the highest I've heard. What makes you relatively, you're not wildly bullish, but relatively optimistic in 2020?
Well, we were at 3,100 this time last year, and that was wildly optimistic when we were at 2,450. So at that time, people were talking about the end of the world. That was going to cause a recession. We didn't think that would happen. And basically, all the dominoes have fallen in place now for the bulls. And yeah, we think next year will be a little more mundane. We've got a 10% upside, but it's still, we find ourselves on the higher end of the pattern, because even though all the fundamentals have turned and we think economic growth is reaccelerating, you've had all of Wall Street telling their clients that a recession is coming. They know it's not now, and they don't know what to say about it. I mean, how do you go from a recession is coming next year for sure to, oh my goodness, we're reaccelerating?
Well, let's find out, Sri Kumar, because you've probably been more right about the bond market, you and Scott Meinert and a few others, than anybody out there. I don't know what's in the water in Los Angeles, but you guys seem to get it right. But to Steve's point, in August, everything was terrible. Inverted yield curve, imminent recession, imminent doom. The Fed's got to cut rates. Now, they did do that. What has changed, if anything, in 4 months?
I don't think anything has changed, Brian, except for the animal spirits in the market. And in comparison with what Steve said about last year and being optimistic about equities in 2019, the difference is we did have an inverted yield curve this year, both on the 3-month 10-year and the 2-year 10-year. Following that, the yield curve steepened, which has led some people in the market to think that all the danger is gone and now the economy is in good shape. The economy doesn't turn on a dime. This is an aircraft carrier, and you don't make these huge difference in forecasts in a matter of 3 or 4 weeks. What has happened, Brian, is that the steepening of the yield curve is a characteristic before every recession. It happened in 2001. There was an inversion and then a steepening. And it happened again in 2007, 2008. Yep. The point also to note is equities were a poor predictor of the recession in 2008, and equities were rallying into the recession in the first half of 2008 when the bond market had already forecast a recession.
That's a great point, Steve. Should we worry that retail investors have suddenly just sort of piling into stocks
Brian,
in the last week?
One reason we're bullish is sentiment has been so cautious. Remember, just last October, Goldman Sachs put out their big report, almost $1 trillion swing from bond equities to bonds, year to date, 2019. So your little $11 billion is a drop in the bucket compared to where people are positioned. Okay. There is not a recession coming. We are reaccelerating. The manufacturing cycle is reaccelerating right now. The services economy has been doing fine. Confidence, the animal spirits, is the middle syllable of the economy. All the confidence indicators are pointing higher.
Yeah.
Brian,
Wall Street, very quickly, Sri, run out of time.
Yeah, jumping in very quickly, the ISM manufacturing shows that manufacturing is in a recession, not growing. And the GDP growth after the second half of 2008 has been on a slowdown. Third quarter, fourth quarter are going to be really slow this year. Yeah, first quarter of 2020, the forecast is for even slower growth. I don't see the acceleration taking place.
Okay, well, listen, it's a good... Guys,
well, you'll see it this time next year.
Okay, that's a bet. The bet's on. Stephen Tree, a gentleman's wager. All
Absolutely.
Right. We like it. We got a great guest lineup, guys. That. Happy New Year to both of you. We'll see you in 2020. Somebody's buying somebody dinner. All right, on deck. The year of Disney's domination. The company had 6, that's right, 6 $1 billion plus movies this year, but the new Star Wars coming in a little below expectations. Is this a sign 2020 could be a much tougher year for the House of Mouse? Plus, it's the year of the have and the have-nots in retail. Some stocks up more than 80%. Others look like they're going bankrupt. Can the winners win and the losers maybe turn it around? We'll talk about it in your retail playbook coming up.
This is The Exchange on CNBC.
Listening and observing are critical skills.
Christmas. A time for celebrating, unwrapping, and unwinding.
Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6S with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
TuneIn is remembering the biggest college sports moments of the decade, like this one from 2018, when Texas kicker Cameron Dicker nails the game-winning field goal in the Red River Showdown against Oklahoma.
A 40-yard field goal try. Good snap and hold. The kick on its way, and the kick is good! It's good! Dicker, the kicker, comes through, and with 9 seconds...
Search college sports on TuneIn to be there for the moments that go down in history.
Cutting for the net, scores! Along the goal line, Marshawn scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
You can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today. Be better informed, be better prepared. The Better Network is on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search BETR and start hanging out with me and my guys in the desert weekday afternoons. The Better Network is now on TuneIn.
Well, the force certainly has been very strong at Disney and for its investors. The company on track to end the year with 6 movies that grossed more than $1 billion each at the box office. And that may be 7 if the latest Star Wars movie delivers. Not to mention the stock, it's delivered, up 32% this year. So will Disney deliver another blowout year next year? Let's bring in Bernie McTernan. He is internet and media analyst at Rosenblatt Securities, and Julia Borston on set. What a treat. Good to see you, Julia.
Great to be here.
All right, start with you because you've seen the movie. No spoilers. No spoilers. You've seen the movie. There's been some reviews that have been mixed. Do you believe this will be the 7th billion-dollar movie?
I think so. I mean, if you just look at the performance so far, $176 million opening weekend domestically, this is the kind of movie that people are going to see, even if it has bad reviews, at least once. This is not going to have the same performance as the last 2 films in the trilogy, but it is still a huge financial success just based on the cost of making a movie like this. It is still going to be big. It is down from the last 2, but it just, shows you how
Does it matter? I mean, if it's a $900 million versus $1.1 billion, I mean, it misses the headline, but does it matter to Disney that much?
Disney has dominated about 1/3 of the domestic box office this year. That's up from about 1/4 of it last year. So Disney is just winning at the box office, and there are no other studios that have been able to have the same kind of success with their franchises.
Tiger blood kind of stuff. Bernie, a great company does not make a great stock. Stock's already up 32% this year. You can say how great the company's doing, but does it mean the stock is still a good investment right now?
Absolutely. It's because of their pivot towards streaming. We think that the company, or Disney Plus, will have 21 million subscribers globally at the end of the year, 35 million at the end of the fiscal year. And that's why you own Disney. It's our top pick in media, $175 price tag, because they will be able to make this transition because of their best-in-class content.
Do we know how many of those subscribers are getting, free things through Verizon? Will they stick around? If you download the app, it goes on to 4 devices. Is that 4 subscriptions or is that 1?
It says how many people are paying. So
paying.
I think we'll learn obviously more about how many.
You know what I mean? If you download on your phone, you'll go to your iPhone and your Apple TV. That's 3. Do they count that 3 times?
No, because you're only paying once. Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of numbers they release in their quarterly results, and it'll be really interesting a year in when those Verizon subscribers maybe lose their free membership. But I think also for next year they have some really tough comparisons, and we'll see whether having Disney Plus really raises the bar for getting people out to the movie theater.
And so we've done 3 streaming video surveys since Disney Plus has launched, and consistently 20 to 25% of the Disney Plus subscribers are coming through Verizon.
Will they stick around, Bernie?
I think they will,
because it's free right now, so why not? But when the bill starts to come, will they pay?
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that the content really ramps next year. So you're going to have 3 Star Wars shows, you're going to have 5 different Marvel shows, and that's in addition to all the great box office
content. And you
content
still say buy the stock still?
Absolutely.
All right, Bernie.
Don't look at 28 times earnings. Look at there's a mini Netflix.
It's got more growth than Baby Yoda, is what you're saying. Like it'll grow up. Bernie, exactly. Julian, thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, coming up. Tesla stock, 420, 502 days after Musk's notorious funding secured tweet. So does the Tesla turnaround story still have gas, so to speak, left in the tank? We'll debate it in rapid fire. Plus, celebrity chef, author, TV personality, and all-around great guy Eric Ripert will join us. We're going to talk about his charity work and how you, who are privileged, can help those and feed those who do not have as much. Eric, coming up live in a few minutes. We're back right after this.
Grubhub. Santa's got his list.
He's checked it twice. He's found out who's naughty or nice.
So now it's our job to make all the gifts.
Which for us elves means back-to-back shifts. Teddies, tablets, toys galore. Every Christmas there's always more.
Hey, you lot. Let's chat till you're finished.
That's the thing, boss.
The job's all done. We finished the list and then some. And we won't be the only ones who sing, because we told all the elves.
Red Bull gives you wings.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, hook, into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
Thank you for an amazing 2019.
What a year. We brought you every major sports game live and on demand.
Touchdown! Got it! And it's gone! Score!
Top stories, commercial-free from the voices you trust.
What was already an important week just got that much more interesting.
And the biggest hits from rock, country, pop, and everything in between. Baby, how you feeling? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for choosing TuneIn.
Cheers to 2020.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Spend Christmas Day listening to the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Featuring 5 big matchups on the holiday schedule. Unwrap the action starting at 12 Eastern when the Celtics take on the Raptors in Toronto, followed by the Bucks and the 76ers at 2:30. The holiday cheers continue with the Rockets and Warriors at 5 and the Clippers and Lakers at 8. And a showdown between the Pelicans and Nuggets at 10:30. 'Tis the season with the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Welcome back to The Exchange. One of Warren Buffett's portfolio managers at Berkshire Hathaway is getting a big addition to his job description. Todd Combs will take over as Geico CEO next week. Bill Roberts stepping down ahead of his retirement from the auto insurer. In addition to the new job, Combs will continue to manage his $14 billion Berkshire Hathaway investment portfolio. It's a strong endorsement for Mr. Combs, but KBW analyst Meyer Shields does not think this move necessarily improves the chances that Combs will succeed Warren Buffett as Berkshire Hathaway's next CEO. All right, let's get a CNBC News update. Turn to Frank Collins. Frank.
Hey there, Brian. Here's what's happening at this hour. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell holding a news conference in his home state of Kentucky this morning. He declined to even discuss the possibility of calling witnesses in President Trump's eventual impeachment trial in the Senate.
I don't have anything to add. I think everything that could be said has been said. You all have been covering it extensively. And I think we'll find out when we come back in session where we are.
And some royal news. Prince Charles says his father, Prince Philip, is being looked after very well at a London hospital. Prince Philip was taken to the hospital on Friday as a precaution for treatment of an existing condition. And Dixville Notch, a tiny isolated community near the Canadian border that's known for casting ballots just after the stroke of midnight in presidential elections, they need to forfeit that tradition in 2020. The Attorney General's office says the community is currently missing a required official in order to hold an election come the February 11th primary. That's the CNBC News update at this hour. Back over to you, Brian.
What will the media do? They got to rush. They used to rush up there every year. Oh, my goodness. Frank Holland, thank you very much, buddy. All right, coming up, Tesla hits 420. Travis Kalanick hits the sell button on Uber, and the U.S. Navy issues a ban on TikTok. That is all ahead in rapid fire. We are back in 2 minutes.
Hello, I'm Jo Brand. When I see people homeless over Christmas, I find it really upsetting. Whether they're sleeping in doorways, on buses, or in hostels, it just shouldn't be happening. But it doesn't have to be like this. This Christmas, crisis centres across Britain are providing warmth and safety, plus long-term support to find people a job and a home. Please reserve a place for someone at Crisis this Christmas for just £28.87. Go to crisis.org.uk now. Thank you.
So it's already December 23rd. Well, at Boots, this Christmas, there's better than half price on selected gifts. Save money on gifts like Fabulous Elegance Straightener was £79.99, now only £35, and other selected products. Get on it today at the Want to Buy Your Nearest without it being the dearest boutique at your nearest Boots in London White City Shopping Centre. So gift like you get them before it ends 24th of December at selected stores and Boots.com.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
TuneIn is remembering the biggest college sports moments of the decade, like this one from 2018, when Alabama's Tua Tagovailoa throws the game-winning touchdown in the national championship against Georgia.
Loads up, looks long, throws, end zone, touchdown! Alabama! Devontae Smith! Touchdown, Alabama! And the Crimson Tide has once again ascended to the top of the college football.
Search college sports on TuneIn to be there for the moments that go down in history.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the man bleeds for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now. Hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA today to start listening.
We're doomed. All right, the co-founder that is, if we film the commercial breaks.
Man.
The co-founder that's cashing out, millionaires speak out, TikTok gets off the boat, thrown off, by the way, at Tesla's big return. Are those calories all worth it? A lot of stuff to hit to. We got rapid fire time, and we got a heck of a lineup today. Robert Frank, Julia Borston, and Bill Griffith. All right, take it easy. All right, first topic. Uber co-founder Travis Kalanick on pace to sell his entire stake in the company. Kalanick sold more than $2.5 billion worth of Uber stock since the lockup period expired last month. According to public filings, he now has less than 10% of his holdings left. The move comes as Uber stock continues to struggle, down more than 30% of its IPO price of $45. Bill Griffith, what do you make?
Oh, no. We got to go to...
Yeah, we got the expert right here.
It's really interesting because Uber was one of these companies that was part of this generation of CEO founder-controlled companies. And now there is increasing scrutiny and concern that maybe you don't want a CEO who has total voting control. And now I wonder if investors are going to say, hey, we're not going to back your company if we know that you could do something like Travis Kalanick.
Well, every time he got pushed out, according to I read Mike Isaac's book, Super Pumped, he always found a way to hang around. Even when he sort of was ousted, he was calling in every day. Is this good for the company? Maybe it's investors.
To have him out. I mean, it's probably better from a management perspective, but you have to wonder, I mean, venture capital investors are going to be careful going forward to make sure that they don't have this situation.
I'm more interested in what I call the revenge startup, right? So he's taken his billions of dollars, Cloud Kitchen,
Yes, I'm
which
very excited.
Is sort of being billed or would have been billed as WeWork meets Uber Eats, where it's, you're starting sort of commercial
Neither of those
spaces.
things is good.
None of those things are good.
Combine those two things.
But that's kind of what it is.
This is a centralized kitchen that then Uber Eats and DoorDash and other
There's no restaurant. They cook. They deliver only to deliver.
You sub out a station. I think it's a great idea. I think it makes so much sense. I think it's going to do well.
I'm more excited about that than I am about some of the other
And let's just
startups.
be clear, for all the controversy of Kalanick and all the bad behavior at Uber and everything like this, he's one of the richest people in the United States.
And he's come up with like 5 companies already. I mean, he came up with many before Uber.
By the way,
it's going to be another one.
Sherman Oaks' own Travis Kalanick. All right, next up. The millionaires have spoken, probably to Robert Frank directly. And they have a lot to say about where the economy and the markets may be headed next year. All right, Robert, you've got the exclusive results. What are the millionaires saying?
Well, 3 big takeaways for me. Number one, they're really cautious going into next year on both the economy and the markets. 40% say the economy is going to be weaker, and 40% say the market is going to be weaker than last year. And what's really interesting on both these counts is political party really determines your view of both the markets and the economy. Democrats think that the world is going to heck. Republicans think it's going to be terrific. Then if you look at the politics, what's interesting is...
That's kind of sad and weird.
It's kind of sad and weird. It used to be that wealth levels determined a lot of what you thought about these issues. Now it's just politics.
Well, but you have to figure presumably they have a lot of their money in the market.
Yes.
Market's up big right now. And you have to believe that it's going to, at some point, it's not going to go up anymore.
That's right.
So when you have that much money in the market, I think it behooves you to be cautious right now.
Well, you know what also goes up? Your age every year.
Thank you for reminding me.
No, I'm just saying you get a little more cautious.
What are you trying to say there, Sullivan?
I'm just saying, get off my stock market.
It was also
maybe you be a little more conservative.
The other interesting takeaway is that a majority believe they support the wealth tax. So you wouldn't think millionaires would support a wealth tax. But when you look at the wealthier millionaires and the possibility of a wealth tax hitting people with $10 million or more, the support goes down. So it's really, even for among millionaires, tax those who are wealthier than me. And so I don't get hit.
And they got hotels on Baltic and Ventnor.
Exactly.
All right, then this. The clock has stopped ticking for TikTok, at least for the U.S. Navy. The military division banning the social media app from government-issued mobile devices, saying the order was part of an effort to, quote, address existing and emergency threats. Julia Borston, they did not address directly, but we all know this is a China fear.
It is a China-owned company. ByteDance, which owns TikTok, is a $75 billion company, and it is not based in the U.S. There is an investigation by CFIUS going on into ByteDance's acquisition of Musical.ly, which was a U.S.-based company that then turned into TikTok. So that's kind of complicated. There are questions about where Musical.ly was originally based. Either way, this is one of the fastest-growing apps here in the U.S., social apps. People use it. I don't know if you're familiar with TikTok.
I got a team. And I try to explain to my daughter about China and the government. She's like, I don't give a...
But there are questions about censorship of the content. There's questions about whether TikTok is sending data back to China.
Well, that's it. No country uses facial recognition as aggressively as China, or at least they're up there. And I wonder, Bill, do we really need to worry about this?
I think we do. I think we are...
A camera in your home filming your children being uploaded to servers in a country that is not our.
I think it behooves, especially the military, to be careful about this, about something like this, because let's face it, we are in an unspoken Cold War with China right now.
That's what I'm saying.
So you can't trust them.
I should
trust
say,
but verify.
I've spoken to TikTok. They do say they don't hold any of the data in China. Everything is kept on servers here.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. But I do think that this is going to be a company that's going to only face more and more scrutiny next year. I think that's going to be a big trend.
Cautious.
I mean, if you're a naval, whatever, petty officer making a TikTok video and there's a new weapon in the back, you can see that kind of thing.
By the way, but if the Navy knows something, should we know something too? In other words, do they know something that the rest of us don't?
Frankly,
and that we
hope they know something we don't know.
Exactly.
Isn't that the point?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I also think if they're banning it, they should tell us.
All right, finally, by the way, go Navy. My dad, 10 years Navy. All right, finally, Tesla has finally done it. The stock touching 420, reaching an all-time high. If that number rings a bell, that's because 502 days ago, CEO Elon Musk sent out a tweet that he was considering taking the company private at $420, and that funding was secured. That led to a lot of SEC scrutiny and restrictions placed on Mr. Musk about tweeting. Of course, he had to respond to today's rally tweeting, "Whoa, stock is so high." And the reason I'm saying it like this for some of our viewers that may not know is that the number 420 is a euphemism for marijuana.
And he remembers as well. And by the way, a good shout out to our Stephen Kopak at the news desk, who went back and discovered that it was 502 days ago that he sent out that tweet. But as we talked about the other day, he is behaving himself more on Twitter than he used to. And, it's fun to see him have a good time with this kind of stuff. Just don't be putting out inside information or being critical and defamatory of people at the same time. It's been
a heck of a run for Tesla, though.
It is now.
I mean, even in the face of the new Audi e-tron, the Jaguar e-Pace, the Porsche Taycan,
which haven't been that great. I mean, what's amazing to me is that everyone was saying, okay, once the competition come in, especially from Audi and Porsche, it's going to be done. And those offerings just haven't been nearly as good. Not the range.
I think the range is 201 miles or something on the e-tron, which for $85,000.
But
now the subsidies end next year, so that could be
for all the criticism and the headwinds that company has faced. I think it's interesting and admirable that Elon Musk just continues going. They just bought new land outside Berlin. They're going to open a new gigafactory there. They've started the ugliest truck in the world. Whatever that's going to be. But they just keep going. They just keep going. They don't let these headwinds slow them down.
All right. Finally, if some health experts have their way, you will not have to wonder if it's worth the calories. Exercise calories could be the latest push in clearer food labeling. That bag of chips, that can of soda would come with information on how much physical activity is needed to burn it off. I love this idea, Julia. For a guy like me that
Are you crazy?
I love it. It's like basically, if you eat this bag of chips, it's 30 minutes on the treadmill. You're going to smash the chips because you don't want to get on the treadmill.
Well, so at our local coffee place on the Universal lot in LA, they have started listing all the calories because that's now the law.
Right.
And I'm always curious, and I ask the folks behind the counter, I said, do people not buy these muffins because they have 600 calories? That's such a shocking number. She says people don't care. Yeah. They're going to buy it. They buy it anyways. So I wonder if this is going to be the silver bullet to say, do you really want to spend 44 minutes on a treadmill? I don't think people are going to actually
Well, at what speed? Is there an incline?
So
how does it work?
Problem.
Right?
Here's the problem. All calories are not equal. All exercise is not equal. So calories, you could have nutrient-rich, calorie-rich foods like avocados, nuts, beans. Those are all very high calorie, but higher nutrients. Likewise, me on a treadmill is not the same as an 80-year-old or a 20-year-old on the treadmill, given our weight issues, fitness issues. So
yeah, how do they generalize it, right? I mean, the calorie burn is going to be much higher if you are husky, such as myself.
Or I eat 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day, right? There's no way I exercise efficiently enough to burn that off, but my metabolism is high, so it works. Everyone's different. So you can't say, therefore, this is 30 minutes on the treadmill.
I don't know if you know, Dom Chu and I started this diet a while ago, and it's very simple. You eat within a 10-hour period of the day, and then you don't eat over a 14-hour.
So intermittent fasting, very trendy.
And Dom has lost, I don't know how many pounds on this thing. I just haven't gained any pounds.
Which Dom has been doing too. Worldwide Exchange in the morning, I know a lot. Which at that hour, it's tough to lose weight. Trust me on that schedule because you're just tired. So like, give me a bagel.
Knowing, I'm all for the transparency. Now I get what you're saying here. Not all calories are created equal, but I think the more transparent we are about all of that, the better off we will be.
Yeah,
it's much better than just.
We used to on Power Lunch or Street Signs back in the day. We used to show like the award for the worst, like main chain meal. Yeah, was the highest, and it was always the Cheesecake Factory, some kind of Cajun.
Portions are giant.
No, but there was like a Cajun pasta from one of these restaurants, Ruby Tuesdays, whatever. That was like 3,700.
But people must be buying it. That's the thing.
But the CEO.
We should bring that back.
I asked the CEO of the Cheesecake Factory about that one time. The fellow who was CEO at the time. I said, what is it's huge? He says, but we're giving you dinner that night, and we're giving you lunch the next day as well. Yeah. So they were anticipating that people couldn't eat.
And
the whole
America
thing.
has an obesity epidemic. So there you go.
Exactly.
What?
Yes.
Julia, thank you very much. Bill, Robert, thank you.
See you on Power Lunch, pal.
Today.
It's you and me.
Ben, how's the retirement?
so far, so good.
I'll see you on the treadmill.
Yes.
All right, coming up, you and me and Dom I'll be cheering you guys on. Coming up, it was a record year for retail store closures. The question is, will the carnage continue in the new year? Your 2020 retail playbook is next.
There's a lot of talk about value out there, but at Fidelity, ho, 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 who's made a list this year?
I want a new phone, one with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchased by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply. You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Whether you call yourself a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or something else, the road to 2020 is on TuneIn.
What a night!
And a complete earthquake. This was
Follow every step of the Democratic primaries while hearing the latest headlines from the White House with live 24-hour news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News Talk, and more.
We're closing in on the first results in the battle for the White House.
Experience the election through the sources you trust with the nonstop news channels on TuneIn.
As we play out the 2010s, TuneIn's looking back at the music trends that defined the decade.
Don't believe me, just watch.
The 2010s saw the rise of the viral hit when meme-ready tracks like Gangnam Style,
Oppan Gangnam Style,
The Harlem Shake,
The Harlem Shake,
What Does the Fox Say?
What does the fox say?
And of course, Old Town Road snowballed from internet oddities to global phenomenons.
I got the horses in the bag. Horse stock is a tag.
Keep listening to TuneIn for more trends of the 2010s.
It has been quite a ride for the retailers and their investors this year. They're facing record store closures, the threat of tariffs, and a consumer that continues to migrate more and more online. So what will 2020 bring? Courtney Reagan has our CNBC Retail Playbook.
2019 was a difficult year for retail with clear winners and losers. Expect the divergence to continue in 2020. First, the tariff divide. While the country's tariff schedule continues to evolve, brands and retailers aren't waiting to adapt, and some will do so easier than others. Big retailers like Target, Walmart, and Best Buy use scale and influence to keep prices low for shoppers by insisting the brands they buy from take on whatever higher cost result. It will hurt smaller, less powerful players. Second, old is new again. As the retail resale market grows, watch for more retailers to experiment with new ways of selling merchandise secondhand. As Gen Z focuses on more sustainable shopping, watch for retailers to deploy new consignment options, giving old merchandise second life. And third, new CEOs, new strategies. Many retailers have or will have new CEOs settle in the new year, including Bed Bath & Beyond, Nike, Under Armour, Tapestry, and Gap. Investors wait to see if the new leaders will dramatically shift the strategies in new directions and then decide if they're willing to give them a chance to make change.
All right, for more insight into retail names and the trends to watch in 2020 and maybe some opportunities for you, let's bring in Brian Nagel. He's Senior Equity Research Analyst at Oppenheimer. Brian, good to see you.
Nice seeing you, too.
Okay, so here's the story that never gets told. We know the losses, store closures, record number, but there's also more people working in retail than ever before. There are still plenty of winners.
Absolutely. And I was listening to Courtney's comments. They're very good. But we've got to make sure with retail not to get too negative here. Because, yes, there are losers, just like you said, Brian. But I actually think what's happening is I look at the companies I cover, the better retailers are continuing to get better and actually bigger and more powerful within this landscape.
Yeah, for every Sears and JCPenney, Sears obviously, losing most of their stores. JCPenney's been sort of teetering for a while, at least from an equity perspective. And I think struggling with a changing retail environment. There are companies that are doing it right. Who are some of them?
Home improvement. I talk about Home Depot and Lowe's a lot on CNBC. Those companies are definitely continuing to benefit from a very healthy retail backdrop. And even though it's not a category that lends terribly well to online, which you're seeing they're adopting online to their business. I look at a company like Best Buy. And I think Best Buy has done an absolutely phenomenal job of really reconfiguring its business model to this new omni-channel world. So now you see Best Buy selling more product online. They're utilizing their stores as consumers shop online. So Best Buy has really been a winner.
I know, and I mean, everybody knows the Target, Walmart, Best Buy story. Everyone's been talking about them. They get a lot of attention. Let's talk about companies that don't get as much attention. AutoZone. It's a retailer. They sell car batteries and windshield wipers, but it's a retailer, and you like it.
Absolutely. We've seen this really play out well through 2019. I very much expect this to continue into 2020. But there's been this really healthy dynamic behind auto parts retail. So what's happened is you have more sweet spot cars on the road. That's your 7 to 9 year old vehicle. Cars are driving longer. That's really creating better demand for companies like AutoZone.
You're supposed to buy low and sell high. That's the idea, right? Or buy high and sell higher, if you catch my drift. There's a company whose stock has suffered. It gets no attention. They basically sell giant bean bags. I can only think of the B-52s because I think Love Shack, but it's the Love Sack. You like this stock?
Absolutely. I think, and that's
it's gotten whacked.
That's a great entry too, because this is very unknown. So we're just right. We talk about AutoZone, Best Buy,
basically giant beanbag chairs. I mean, it's rough. They probably wouldn't like that, but that's semi-fair.
No, it's what they call is their Sack. And what's really intriguing with Love Sack is their newer product called the Sactional, which is this high-end, really well put together modular sofa. It's an up and comer within the space. Very much an omni-channel.
What's happened to the stock? It's like somebody took a knife to a beanbag.
That company, look, you talk about tariffs. They were really in the crosshairs of tariffs. A year ago, a big chunk of their manufacturing does in China. But to me, that's the negative of 19 could very well be the positive 2020, because this company has been very proactive in getting their manufacturing now out of China. So that's over time will help to, I mean, they're doing this now, but really reduce that exposure to China and take away that pressure which has been on their gross margins.
All right, Brian Nagel, good stuff there. AutoZone and Love Sack, names we don't talk about too much.
Nice talking.
We'll let you go roam if you want to.
Thanks.
Coming up, emerging markets have been on a tear, but there is one in particular that could derail the rally in 2020. We're going to tell you what that thing is and how big of a threat it may be. Plus, Eric Repair live on set in just a couple of minutes. Stick around.
I'm happy to give you the tour. I love doing it. Here, Jay.
At Asda this Christmas, a whole basted turkey is just £4 a kilo, and our Grower Selection vegetables are only 20p per pack. Get a broccoli, 1 kilogram of carrots, and 500 grams of parsnips or sprouts. Asda, let's make Christmas extra special. Selected stores subject to availability. Broccoli, 360 grams, ends 26th of December.
Right, what have we got here?
55-year-old male with the worst case of drop jaw I've seen, Doctor.
Goodness, his jaw's quite literally dropped onto the floor, hasn't it?
He was trying on the latest hearing aid technology at Specsavers.
What? Specsavers have high-tech hearing aids? That is astonishing.
Apparently, these ones are rechargeable and connect to your smartphone and TV. Doctor. Doctor.
My jaw. Oh.
I need some help over here. Get the latest rechargeable Bluetooth hearing aid technology at Specsavers from £1,395 a pair. Ask in store for details.
Looks, catches on, goes in the end zone. Touchdown underneath the crossbar.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium. Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Those up, dart toward the end zone. Caught ball, touchdown with a touchdown to the left corner. Bucs take the lead.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today. TuneIn is remembering the biggest college sports moments of the decade, like this one from 2018, when Alabama's Tua Tagovailoa throws the game-winning touchdown in the national championship against Georgia.
Loads up, looks long, throws, end zone, touchdown! Alabama! Devontae Smith! Touchdown, Alabama! And the Crimson Tide has once again ascended to the top of the college football.
Search college sports on TuneIn to be there for the moments that go down in history.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
On the goal line, Martin scores! He takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Gonna move, hit a shot, he scores!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
welcome back to the exchange. Let's take a look at the emerging markets ETF, the big one, the EEM. It's had a pretty good year, of 14%, but that could change in the new year. Let's find out why. Seema Modi joining us now with what could derail this rally possibly. Seema, welcome.
Well, Brian, thank you. There has been this growing consensus among Wall Street strategists that emerging markets will rebound in 2020. It'll continue this run as this trade risk fades and global growth bottoms out. But there is this new risk on the horizon, and that is the rise of protests in different parts of the world, from Chile, Egypt to Lebanon. Income inequality and corruption are among the issues that are driving these demonstrations. Brian, in India, where the protests are ongoing and unfortunately have turned deadly, that is due to or is in response to a controversial citizenship bill that was passed by Prime Minister Modi's government a couple weeks ago. The big question is, what do these protests mean for economic growth? This, of course, is also a human rights story, but for us, we're focusing on the economic impact this could have on India's economy, which is already growing at its slowest growth rate in 5 years. Unemployment is at a 45-year high. Eurasia just downgraded its view on India because of the social unrest that you're seeing on the ground there. So you're starting to see a lot of people pay attention to these protests and put together their analysis as to what it means for these economies that are expected to rebound next year.
And by the way, this will be the most populous nation in the world probably in the next 10 or 20 years. China's aging out. India's younger. They may be there already.
This is supposed to set to rival China in terms of economic growth. They have this consumption power as well. And, you have these leaders around the world that are seen as pro-business, but how pro-business can they be when they have to find a way to respond to these demonstrations?
What about Brazil?
That are building?
I saw you. Let's bring that map as a good-looking map. Brazil also issues. Brazil always has issues.
Yeah, social concerns there, human rights concerns inside the country. What's happening on the Amazon as well. So Bolsonaro has been receiving strong pushback from citizens there. And
the stock market has done great in Brazil, though.
Here's an interesting question, given
you're buying U.S. dollars,
worldwide exchange.
EWZ.
Exactly. Yeah. Are these global markets always a good barometer of popularity of a president and how well their economies are doing? I would say the currencies have a better view of that, just given the liquidity in these
emerging markets watch list for 2020. Seema, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, he's a celebrity chef, author, TV personality, but also he's the vice chairman of City Harvest. They rescue 64 million pounds of food every year and help feed those who are in need. Eric Repair will join us live on The Exchange next.
One of the products I helped develop.
As we play out the 2010s, TuneIn's looking back at the music trends that defined the decade. The 2010s saw yet another revolution in the way we listen to music. With music fans giving up CDs and digital downloads for streaming services and internet radio like TuneIn. At the same time, vinyl sales continue to rise to levels not seen since the format's original decline. Keep listening to TuneIn for more trends of the 2010s.
Looks, catches, aren't those in the end zone. Touchdown underneath the crossbar.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium. Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Those up, dart toward the end zone. Caught, ball, touchdown with a touchdown to the left corner. Bucs take the lead.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Want TuneIn to remind you when the big NFL game is about to get underway? Be sure notifications are allowed on your phone and search NFL on the TuneIn app. Find the game you want to hear under events and tap Notify Me. We'll let you know exactly when it's time to listen in for kickoff. You might already know that TuneIn allows you to listen to all the pro sports leagues wherever you go. But did you know TuneIn is also home to the wide world of college sports?
Open three, DeAndre Hunter got it! Handoff Carruthers, big hole right side. He leaps and he surges in. Touchdown!
From live college football, basketball, and baseball games to podcasts and coaches shows fueling your love for the game in your school. And the best part is, it's all free. Search college sports to find your team or league.
Spend Christmas Day listening to the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Featuring 5 big matchups on the holiday schedule. Unwrap the action starting at 12 Eastern when the Celtics take on the Raptors in Toronto. followed by the Bucks and the 76ers at 2:30. The holiday cheers continue with the Rockets and Warriors at 5 and the Clippers and Lakers at 8. And a showdown between the Pelicans and Nuggets at 10:30. 'Tis the season with the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Do you have a favorite true crime podcast this year? Here's a few of ours. On the latest season of Uncover, journalist Michelle Shepard investigates the unsolved case of a missing Toronto teen that has haunted her for 20
Toronto
years.
police are continuing a desperate search for a missing...
And on Haunting Warhead, host Damon Fairless exposes the darkest, most shocking corners of the internet and the criminals who lurk in the shadows.
How do you take down a criminal network hidden in the shadows?
Search True Crime on TuneIn to discover these and more life thrillers.
Well, the holidays are upon us, and many of us gather with our loved ones around tables that are just full of food. And it's important in those moments, keep in mind who are those that are less fortunate. Around the country, more than 34 or 37 million Americans struggle with hunger. In New York City, the organization City Harvest is tackling this problem by salvaging millions of pounds of food to feed nearly 1.2 million people in the community every year. Joining us now is Eric Ripari, he's vice chairman of City Harvest and the world-renowned chef and owner, of course, of Le Bernardin, one of, if not the world's best restaurant. Eric,
Thank you.
Je vous en prie. Great to see you. 64 million pounds of food rescued.
Food that will go to waste, that is rescued.
Where is it rescued from and how is it used?
So it's rescued from restaurants, supermarkets, big, large companies like Goya, farmers. We gather the food to the facilities and then we distribute it to 400 different shelters in New York. And we also have a mobile market in each borough that has fresh food, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. People can come and pick up the food and we teach them what to do with it as well.
And it's clear because there's people that are cynical that'll say, oh, you're trying to give away basically the garbage. You know,
no,
that's not the case.
This
is not the
food.
case.
Absolutely, that's very important to know. But that food will go to waste anyway. So it's fantastic. So we have 10,000 volunteers every year to repack the food and help to facilitate the process. 2,500 donors. 64 million pounds of food distributed just in New York to that population that live under poverty level.
Which is a lot more than we think. You know, we're CNBC, we've got the highest income audience. I mean, so it's sometimes we have to remember that there's a lot of people who struggle. And it's not, and by the way, it's not just that they don't have access to a lot of food, it's quality of food that they have access to, correct?
Absolutely.
The food deserts, it's fresh fruits, fresh vegetables.
It doesn't exist.
No. A bag of chips is easy to come by.
Of course, and it's not what you want to give to your child.
So how can our viewers help?
The viewers help by giving to City Harvest. They can go to cityharvest.org and make donations. They can volunteer. They can
volunteer. They can actually go out and help.
You can go help at the facilities, or you can go to the markets and help giving the food to people in need. It's many ways to help, but going to cityharvest.org, I think, is the best way to get a lot of information.
Best way to start. All right, I want to flip gears because you're not only a great guy, but a great chef and businessman. What's going on with restaurants? Millennials aren't eating out. You're at the very high end, obviously.
Yes.
It seems like the very high end and sort of fast food is doing well, but man, the middle is
being
What's
crushed.
going on? The economy is good, isn't it?
Well, the economy is not that good. The stock market is very good, but what we see is in the street is very different than the evolution of the stock market. So restaurants are not doing so well in terms of revenues. They have a lot of expenses because the minimum wage has been affecting the restaurant industry a lot. Was $2 per hour 2 years ago, and $2 again this year on January 1st. So this is a huge pressure on restaurants. People are at the end of the year spending a lot of money in restaurants right now, entertaining and so on. But for 10 months, a lot of the restaurant industry was suffering. From less
and we've spoken to our friend Tillman Fertitta, the biggest restaurant owner in the United States. Great guy. I had a show on CNBC, and he has said on the air, listen, sometimes with these minimum wage changes, the employees actually end up making less. Nobody's picking on this. Listen, you're not some guy that's just saying this to say this. This is the real story here. How does it work? What are the real economics of it?
Well, the challenge is that when you have raise on minimum wage, it means that the restaurants that are struggling already because we cannot raise the prices anymore in general.
Yeah.
The prices are at the max. And it's less overtime for the employees. And then also for the restaurant is a big struggle because a lot of other employees that have salaries are like, well, now you're raising the price of the minimum wage. I deserve to have more. So it's a lot of pressure on the restaurant. And the employees don't necessarily benefit from it because, again, no overtime and the way the restaurants manage give them less benefits.
You're obviously at the very top of your game, and your servers are the best in the business. I'm sure they do very, very well.
Yes.
Do they like the no tipping policy that's sort of started by Danny Meyer and others?
No. The non-tipping policy was not welcomed by our staff. We, at the time, discussed it with them.
You did? You gave them maybe a choice?
And at the end, and when we analyze pretty well, the only body that benefits from it is the government. When the client paid tax on the full price of the bill, which includes supposedly the tips.
It raised the tax rate.
Yes.
Never thought about that. This is why we like you. You're not just a great chef, but you're a good business person as well. Hey, great stuff with City Harvest. Go to cityharvest.org.
Thank you.
Eric Repère, merci beaucoup. Joyeux Noël.
Joyeux Noël. Thank you.
Noël.
Happy New Year.
All right, thank you very much. All right, that does it for the exchange. I'll join Bill Griffith in just a minute on Power Lunch, which begins right now. Bill.
Merci beaucoup. Yes, I am Bill Griffith. Here's what's new at 2 on Power Lunch today, Brian. Boeing fires its CEO as the company struggles to continue in the wake of those 2 deadly crashes and the grounding of the 737 MAX. The challenges ahead for the new head honcho there. Plus, countdown to Christmas, less than 48 hours until the end of the holiday shopping season. It's been a brutal year for store closures, a record year, as a matter of fact. So whose time will run out after Santa leaves town this time around? And maybe baseball's best days are behind it? We'll go inside the record-breaking year that we've seen for America's pastime coming up. Power Lunch starts right now. Welcome, everybody, and let's get you caught up on the markets. Another rally day for the stock market. Santa Claus continues to ride his sleigh down Wall Street. The record levels for the S&P and the NASDAQ. The Dow set to close at a record level as well. The Dow up 1/3%. We've got the S&P, the NASDAQ, Russell all doing well. Boeing is among the gainers today for the Dow, and we're going to talk about why, Brian, right now, right?
Yeah, we certainly are, Bill. Thank you very much. Well, Boeing higher by 3% today. The company's board firing CEO Dennis Muilenburg. Phil Bowe joining us now with more on the firing and a look at what happens next as well. Phil, by the way, leaving his vacation to cover this important story, Phil, and we do appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Let's focus on the man who will be running Boeing starting January 13th as president and CEO. Dave Calhoun, he has been executive chairman at Boeing. He's been on the board of Boeing's board of directors since 2009. So he's intimate with the company, and he has vast experience when it comes to running a conglomerate. Remember, for a number of years, he ran GE's infrastructure business. So what's his game plan? Well, it basically comes down to 3 things. You can call them the 3 R's. Rebuild the FAA relationship, which was completely broken. A reset for the 737 MAX. That doesn't mean scrapping all the work that's been done, but essentially working with the engineers, working with the commercial airplane division to say, okay, where are we and how do we get to where we need to be? And finally, repairing airline confidence in Boeing. To that end, David Calhoun, as you take a look at his resume, has spent his first day on the job, even though he doesn't really take over until mid-January. He has called the head of the FAA. He has called a number of airline CEOs. He's called a number of members of Congress. This is a man who realizes that Boeing needs to change its tenor and tone when it comes to dealing with key stakeholders when it deals with the 737 MAX. In terms of the MAX, does this mean that we're going to see the MAX recertified quicker or things are going to speed up? Not necessarily. It is what it is, and they are in the midst of a process. They've got several hurdles, I've been told anywhere between 10 and 12, that still need to be cleared before the MAX is recertified. And by the way, there are a couple of 30-day comment periods with some of these steps in there. So it's not like they can just say, okay, we're ready to go. No, there is a process that has been laid out here. Finally, when you take a look at shares of Boeing, yes, the stock is moving higher today, up almost 2.7%. But analysts, for the most part, have said this is a welcome change. But let's see what happens now once David Calhoun gets into this job in mid-January and lays out a more clear game plan for Wall Street.
Yeah, a lot of people were wondering why this didn't happen sooner, Phil. But we'll see what happens from now at this point. Phil LeBeau, again, thank you for stepping in from your vacation today, and I'll see you tonight on Nightly Business Report as well. Sticking around late for us. For more on this shakeup at Boeing, let's bring in former NTSB investigator Alan Deal. He's Argus research analyst John Eade with us as well. John, you downgraded Boeing shares to hold just days after the MAX was grounded. At the time, 80% of analysts tracked by FactSet still had a buy rating on that stock. Since your call, the stock has fallen more than 11%. And now today we've seen this gain in the wake of Muhlenberg's firing. What is this going to change your mind about this stock or what?
Bill, not yet. There's just so much uncertainty about when this plane is going to fly again. It's not the backlog. It's not really the CEO. It's just what has to be done before the regulators are convinced that they're willing to lift the grounding. And there's been very little transparency on that, and I'm hoping to get more of that from the new CEO.
Alan, what do you think? Will there be more transparency? How does the changing of the guard at Boeing change the recertification process for the 737, do you think?
Well, Muhlenberg let his marketeers overrule his engineers. So there's going to be a careful examination. John pointed out the multiple steps that they're going to have to go through. John and Bill did. But the fate of the MAX also lies in the hands of two other individuals, both of whom are 737 pilots. The FAA administrator, Mr. Dixon, and the NTSB chairman, Mr. Zumwalt. So I think everybody from the president to the Congress are going to be looking at what these people and their staffs say about this jet.
And how does, Alan, that change the calculus they're thinking? The fact that the two men who are probably going to make the decision are indeed former pilots, because as pilots, there's often that relationship, right, where it's like, hey, we're flying the plane. Don't tell us what to do because ultimately we're the ones in charge. I've spoken to 3 pilots of 737 MAXs and 737s. All 3 have said that they viewed the plane as a little bit, in their words, sort of jumpy or squirrely. How do they resolve this long term?
Well, I think the modifications that are being proposed will do much, both training and the software. But automation's not transparent. And what happened apparently in both these crashes was the automation was doing things and the pilots were trying to troubleshoot. I think the aircraft needs a couple more fixes that right now are not part of the mix. They need oral alerts to tell them when the sensors are messing up, and they also need to know when that MCAS system is going to shove the nose down. Pilots need to know this immediately and unmistakably, and they don't. I don't think they've quite addressed that. So I'll be looking forward to seeing what Dixon and what Captain Zumwalt say about the jet.
John, are you surprised that Boeing's only down 11% this year so far? Given the just disastrous year it has had, the order flow has slowed to a trickle, the stockpiling of the planes that they kept producing, even though, you know, it was still grounded at this point. What's your outlook for 2020 for this company?
Well, the company has not given an outlook yet. They said they will when they announce their fourth quarter earnings. Prior to our downgrade, we had been looking for earnings of about $20 a share. Boeing has strong other businesses outside its commercial aircraft. It's got an aircraft services business. It's got a defense business. You know, those are probably worth maybe $8 to $10 in earnings per share. So with a little bit of the aircraft coming back, maybe we'd see something like $12 in earnings next year. And you know, if you put a multiple of 20 times on that, you probably get to a better valuation.
I just wonder, John, if people aren't thinking enough about the passengers. And what I mean by that is when the plane comes back into service, if there is some kind of a pushback by flyers who say, you know what, I'm just not getting on that plane, United, Southwest, American, you need to rebook me. If the airlines start to have costs or traffic issues because of the passengers and the jet, what then? I mean, could they say to Boeing, give us a different plane, our passengers won't get on this one?
Well, I think they've got a 7-year backlog of 737. So, part of the fix is not only just improving the software, but also improving the training. So I do think you're going to need to see the airlines come out and say, we accept this and, we're going to be flying it. Otherwise, there's not going to be much growth at all for Boeing. You're right about that.
Alan, would you fly the MAX when it's recertified? I mean, what do you think the airlines have to do to convince those skittish passengers to get back on that plane?
Well, I'd fly it. I'd feel more comfortable if it had those oral alerts that I just mentioned. But I think it'll come back strong. Boeing has got a great reputation. I know you've talked to pilots. Some pilots say, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. This is not just a Boeing problem. Automation is also an Airbus problem. But clearly, I think the public will be hesitant for the first few months. But after that, the plane will come back and be a success.
Does it need certification? It's going to have to get certification from the FAA and those foreign regulators as well. Does NTSB need to sign off on this Alan?
Congress often turns to the NTSB for oversight. As you know, they don't have a regulatory function. Their job is to investigate and come up with ways of preventing it. But they've got people like Bob Zumwalt, who are very smart staff. I've worked for both FAA and NTSB, and I think they will want to talk to both those gentlemen and their staffs. And I think Congress and maybe even the president will want this, along with the public flying interest groups.
All right. Former NTSB investigator Alan Deal, Argus Research analyst John Eade. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, coming up, the Dow on pace to close the day with, you guessed it, another record high. Does ending, the year on a high note mean a sell-off could be waiting for us, or will that momentum just roll right through into the new year? And Netflix, stock up 4,000% this decade, made a lot of people rich. But with so many new competitors on the scene, will Netflix get squeezed out? Power Lunch is going full stream ahead into 2020. Stick around.
Christmas, a time for celebrating, unwrapping and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6S with a 12-megapixel camera, now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving you £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile, every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards at the goal line. It's intercepted.
Listen live as the action unfolds, or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
Introducing a new podcast, ESPN Daily. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Mina Kimes. Listen and favorite ESPN Daily on TuneIn.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
As we wave goodbye to the 2010s, TuneIn is remembering some of the decade's biggest news stories.
In 2011, the Arab Spring sparks anti-government protests across the Middle East and Northern Africa. In 2016, the United Kingdom votes to leave the European Union, forcing the ongoing Brexit crisis. And in 2019, Hong Kong erupts in 6 months of pro-democracy protest against mainland China.
Search news on TuneIn to be there when the next big story breaks.
Yep. As we've been mentioning, more record highs for stocks today. The S&P, the NASDAQ, the Dow, just short of its best levels, but having a very nice day again, thanks in part to a bump in Boeing. That's as far as the Dow goes. Bob Pisani at the New York Stock Exchange with more on what continues to drive this stock market higher, Robert.
And it's the advanced decline line, Bill. Every day, more stocks advancing than declining. That means the breadth of the market is expanding out. It's not just a few big cap stocks here, but tech has really been a bellwether with Apple, Skyworks, and particularly the semiconductors. Almost every day, Intel, NVIDIA, Advanced Micro, Skyworks hitting new highs. This has really been the standout sector for the year. A lot of people have been saying that maybe we're set up at this point for a little bit of a sell-off because the market's expensive on a forward earnings basis. That's true, but not when you've got these kinds of factors working in your favor. Remember, beginning in early October, the Fed started injecting more liquidity in the system. Okay, don't call it quantitative easing. Tariff and trade truce hopes are there, and there's been hopes for a bottom on global economy. When you have these three things working in your favor, you can argue for a bit of a multiple expansion. When you've got new highs advancing every day, advanced decline line advancing every day, it's hard to argue for some kind of imminent sell-off at this point here. It has been a little bit of a big cap rally. That's one thing the bears have going for it. We're up 28% for the year on the S&P, but the top 10 stocks in the S&P are up 40%. Why is that important? Because they're so big now that top 10 is 23% of the market cap of the S&P 500. Think about that. 10 stocks are 23% of the market cap. That's not that unusual. It's a little bit on the high end, but it's often the case the top 10 are 20% or more. But look at these numbers. Apple up 77% for the year. Microsoft 55%. Alphabet's up 30%. Remember, the S&P is only up 28%. If you go further down, there's only a few of them that aren't really up as nearly as much of that. We've got Amazon, for example, that's up 19%, and we've got Facebook, which is up 57%. So 4 out of the 5 stocks that are up this year are up dramatically over the S&P 500. And when you get those kinds of numbers, Bill, the top 5 moving that much, you're going to move the overall S&P 500. Back to you.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Bob, thanks. The S&P is on pace for its best year since 2013. So with just 6 trading days left this year and in the decade, unless you count the fact that the decade doesn't actually start until 2011.
Or every year is the start of a new decade.
2021, yeah.
Every 10-year period is a decade.
Yeah. See, we always get caught up in the details here. Jerry Castellini is with us today, longtime president and CIO of CastleArk Management. Peter Anderson also here. He's CIO of Anderson Capital Management. Thank you both for joining us today. Jerry, last I checked, the laws of physics were still in place. I mean, at some point, what goes up must come down, but it's still defying gravity here. What's going on?
Well, I think what Bob was just talking about, though, among the top 10, you're looking at a separation that occurred in the last couple of years of those really big names. And what's really powerful is the other S&P 490 that come behind it. You take the top 5 stocks out of the market, the overall remaining S&P is trading at like 16.5 times next year. And at 2% interest rates, that's just too cheap. And if you combine that with what everyone's talking about, which is all the liquidity being poured in, not just by our Fed, but by the ECB, by the Bank of Japan and China, you're setting yourself up for probably the best year of cyclical stock performance in the last 10, maybe in the last 15. And you don't really need to worry about the other ones.
Peter, I get sweaty palms when I feel like we all think we've figured it out and there's no place for this market to go but up. Is there anything you're watching right now that gives you pause?
Well, you know, I'm hoping for 2020 to be the year of investing in common sense as opposed to common stocks. You know, this past year and actually several years, we spent a lot of time fretting about inverted yield curves, trading on presidential tweets, all kinds of technical issues that if we just turn to common sense and we start looking at individual stocks that have great demand, I think 2020 can be very, very promising, but not just talking about the technicals and how many stocks are in the S&P 500 and which ones are, you know, undervalued versus overvalued. That's important, but I think we've come a long way. We've drifted from thinking about what kind of stocks do we like, which ones do we think we can model more simply than say Peloton, for instance, where I have no idea how many people are going to be using exercise bikes after their New Year's resolutions wear off, but I have a much better sense of how many people are going to be worried about whether or not they get hacked with their home cameras, looking at their nurseries or having their television talk back to them.
And that's why, and not to cut you off, Peter, but that's why you like CyberArk. And then I saw Peloton. I thought this was a fitness chain, but it just sounds like one Equinix. You like Equinix and CyberArk.
That's correct, yeah. And Equinix is actually data storage, whereas CyberArk is data security. So the data security means that none of us wants to get hacked, right? All the way from, as I said, your home nursery all the way to banking. So that's pretty common sense that nobody's going to skip on that kind of capital expenditure, right? And then on data storage, too. You know, I have this rule. It's the law of your grandmother's attic. No matter how large your attic is, it always seems to absorb all your junk, correct? And so with data storage, we as humans just create so much more data. It has to go somewhere. And to me, it's very obvious that a company like Equinix and several other competitors will be there because they need to be there to absorb all this stuff we create.
Jerry, yours is a broader spectrum of picks here and some more household names, though. You got J.P. Morgan, Conoco, and Texas Instruments. And we know the chips have done so well this decade as well, right?
Yeah, but following up on that, I mean, the storage play is simple and it's vast. And in my opinion, you know, Texas Instruments at its current multiple is a wonderful way to play that trend and watch it to continue because the cycle, I think, is still there. More interesting, though, are names like Conoco and J.P. Morgan that haven't been part of this last 10 years by any stretch, and yet Conoco management is out with a strategy of buying essentially 100% of their capital back over the next 10 years. And J.P. Morgan, at its current multiple, is as cheap as you've ever seen a big financial name like this that has a huge, huge tailwind with the Fed and global liquidity coming at them. So it's just another example of how this overwhelming market breadth is poised here to be part of this cyclical run. Yep. And in my opinion, you don't have to go that far.
All right. Two veteran money managers licking their chops, getting ready for 2020. Jerry Castellini, Peter Anderson, thank you both. See you later.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Meantime, Major League Baseball reporting record revenue this year, and with streaming and sports gambling getting bigger, that number could continue to grow. But is there one major problem that baseball and all other major league sports need to be worried about? We'll explain. Plus, it's been a year since the Christmas Eve sell-off, and chip stocks have soared since then, as we just mentioned. The three best performing stocks in the S&P this year, all chip stocks. Can they continue to soar next year? That's coming up.
This CNBC program is
19p. What will that get you at Christmas? 5 minutes to Panto, a very unpopular Secret Santa. This week at Tesco, you can get sprouts, carrots, or parsnips from just 19p. Our festive 3. That should get you on the nice list. Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years. Selected stores excludes Express, ends 26th of December.
Whether you call yourself a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or something else, the road to 2020 is on TuneIn.
What a night! And a complete earthquake. This was
Follow every step of the Democratic primaries while hearing the latest headlines from the White House with live 24-hour news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News Talk, and more.
We're closing in on the first results in the battle for the White House.
Experience the election through the sources you trust with the nonstop news channels on TuneIn.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you already have an all-access pass to every team and every game in the league. Amazing, right?
Steps up, floats it towards, at the goal line, it's intercepted!
Listen live as the action unfolds or on demand when you can. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Right side, it is caught. It is in for the right side for the touchdown.
Search NFL today.
As we play out the 2010s, TuneIn's looking back at the music trends that defined the decade. The 2010s saw yet another revolution in the way we listen to music. With music fans giving up CDs and digital downloads for streaming services and internet radio like TuneIn. At the same time, vinyl sales continue to rise to levels not seen since the format's original decline. Keep listening to TuneIn for more trends of the 2010s.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
Hi, I'm Tom Haberstroh, host of the Haberstroh podcast.
partnering with TuneIn to answer a few questions and get you prepped for NBA Christmas Day. I wanted to start an NBA podcast because I wanted to take you behind the scenes and hear it from the people that make the NBA tick. It's the most intimate platform for the most intimate sport, and podcasts are the perfect medium to capture that intimacy. Search The Haber Show to listen to new episodes every Friday throughout the NBA season on TuneIn.
Welcome back to Power Lunch. I'm Seema Modi. The three top stocks on the S&P 500 this year have something in common. They are all chip makers, AMD, Lam Research, and KLA Corp, all racing ahead of the pack this year, while the SMH Semiconductor ETF tracks for its best year since 2003. Let's bring in your Trading Nation team, Mark Newton of Newton Advisors and Nancy Tengler of Laffer Tengler Investments. Mark, big run in these stocks. What do the charts tell you?
Yeah, Seema, it looks very much like we're going to see mean reversion in 2020. This group has gotten way ahead of itself in a big way. I mean, the SOX is up over 700 points just since last December's lows, which is up 61% or so from those bottoms. So you take a chart like AMD, for example, Advanced Micro Devices, one of the top that you mentioned, it's up over 100% for this year. You look at commonly looked at indicators like Relative Strength Index, it's back up over 70 on a monthly index, on a monthly basis. That's very much a concern. The last time you saw that, of course, was both 2014 and also the early part of 2018. Both those times coincided with periods of underperformance going forward. My thinking is, look, it's been a great move. A lot of investors are looking at this. It's simply, the net's unbreakable. Don't worry about falling. But, the bottom line is this group has gotten much, much too extended at current levels. So charts of the SOX, very similar. You look at the Philadelphia SOX Semiconductor Index, very similar. RSI right now over 70. My thinking is it's right to really take the foot off the accelerator and think that this group starts to stall as we enter the month of January.
Nancy, what do you think from a fundamental perspective? Is it time to sell, given that they've already had a big run?
Yeah, see, we don't own any of them. We missed Lam Research, and I would be interested in that stock on a pullback. But we're looking forward. We are investing in sort of the staid, diversified names like Texas Instruments, Broadcom, even Intel has been attractive to us. And so dividend growth, yield alternative in this sort of market that has a dearth of yield. So we would not be chasing these at these levels.
The hunt for yield, even in chips. Nancy and Mark, thank you for joining us today. Trading Nation, head to our website. Follow us on Twitter at Trading Nation. Brian, back to you.
Seema, thank you very much. All right, it is full stream ahead here on Power Lunch. Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus bursting onto the scene this year. Can the first movers like Netflix and Roku beat back the newbies? Plus, Santa Claus is coming to town. And how many retailers are going to be cheering or jeering after the holidays? And the booming decade for sports, breaking record TV deals, skyrocketing team values, and now online gambling. Should investors fear a looming sports biz bubble? All topics we'll tackle in the second half of Power Lunch ahead.
And now, the latest from tradingnation.cnbc.com and a word from our sponsor.
For entries into breakouts, some traders use buy-stop limit orders placed above resistance levels. Unlike regular buy-stop limits turn into limit orders when the stop is triggered. Thus, if a stock closes below the stop price one day and opens far above the limit price the next, a trader will not buy the stock. I'm Lee Bohl, and Schwab is the better place for traders.
You know it's out there somewhere, but you just keep missing out. I'm talking about your dream job. Now it's easier to find and land your next role with the LinkedIn app. Build connections, keep in touch, and be the first to hear about new jobs. LinkedIn has more openings than applicants. And sometimes all it takes is one LinkedIn connection to land the job that's right for you. Don't miss out. Get your next big break and find the job meant for you. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
At Argos, it's not too late to get them their dream gifts. Shop a wide range of top brands including Lego, Beats and Fitbit. And with Christmas just around the corner, order right up until Christmas Eve to get same-day home delivery. With Argos, you're good to go. Subject to availability, delivery conditions apply. Christmas Eve order by 1 p.m, 90% UK coverage.
As we play out the 2010s, TuneIn's looking back at the music trends that defined the decade.
That's why I need a one dance.
The 2010s was the decade of the surprise album drop. where artists from Beyonce, Drake, and Frank Ocean to Radiohead, U2, and the late David Bowie skipped the traditional promotion cycle to bring their music directly to fans with little to no warning. Keep listening to TuneIn for more trends of the 2010s.
Looks, catches on, goes in the end zone. Touchdown underneath the crossbar.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium. Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Those up, dart toward the end zone. Caught ball, touchdown with a touchdown to the left corner. Bucs take the lead.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Be better informed, be better prepared. The Better Network is on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search BETR and start hanging out with me and my guys in the desert weekday afternoons. The Better Network is now on TuneIn.
Whether you call yourself a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or something else, the road to 2020 is on TuneIn.
What a night!
And a complete earthquake. This was
Follow every step of the Democratic primaries while hearing the latest headlines from the White House with live 24-hour news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News Talk, and more.
We're closing in on the first results in the battle for the White House.
Experience the election through the sources you trust with the nonstop news channels on TuneIn.
TuneIn is remembering the biggest college sports moments of the decade, like this one from 2011, when UConn point guard Kemba Walker hits the game-winning jumper in the Big East tournament against Pittsburgh.
Here's Walker with 4, stops, moves left, steps back, the jumper, it's good! At the buzzer, and Kemba Walker has done it again!
Search college sports on TuneIn to be there for the moments that go down in history.
I'm Julia Borsten, and here's your CNBC News update at this hour. A senior U.S. diplomat called on Russia to free Paul Whelan, a former Marine accused of espionage. This after he and diplomats from Britain, Canada, and Ireland visited Whelan in a Moscow jail.
Paul seemed to be in reasonably good spirits today. He appreciated the fact that all 4 embassies for the first time visited him for the holidays. He sends his well wishes to his parents, to his family, and his friends. In terms of the ministry's comments, they're baseless. There is no evidence, there's no crime.
Afghan President Ashraf Ghani celebrating his re-election victory. The announcement of preliminary results from the September 28th election were delayed until Sunday. The election has plunged the country into a political crisis and was marred by allegations of fraud. Venice is facing the prospect of more intense floods at a time when it's still counting the cost of the exceptional high tide that hit in November. The city's mayor says total damage to the city is estimated at around 1 billion euros. That's the CNBC News update at this hour. Back over to you, Brian.
Julia, thank you very much. All right, well, the markets, they are in record territory. The Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ, they're all higher. And, of course, as you know, every time, Bill, when you're at a record and you go up, it's a what?
It's another record, Brian.
Another record. He has spoken.
Why am I talking like Brian Sullivan today?
Is that how I sound?
No, just a lot of energy here.
It's a good thing.
We have our power movers for you right now, starting with Tesla. The incredible run continues today. It broke the $420 level. That number sound familiar? Was mentioned in Elon Musk's infamous funding secured tweet a mere 502 days ago. Today, Musk tweeted, "Whoa, the stock is so high, LOL." And all you hotheads out there who understand that one, you're LOLing right now as well. Apache is soaring as it enters into a joint venture with the French company Total to develop a project off the coast of Suriname. And we end with intracellular therapies. The stock nearly tripling today after the FDA approved its treatment for schizophrenia in adults. Brian Sullivan.
Thank you, Bill. Well, 2019 is going to be remembered as the year the streaming wars really began to heat up. New kids on the block, Apple TV Plus, Disney Plus, they all arrived on the scene. And they tried to give Netflix a run for its money. And in 2020, even more players are coming. Of course, NBC, our parent company, Peacock, and Warner Media's HBO Max expected to also jump into the already maybe saturated streaming verse in the spring. What is the best way to play the streaming wars next year, if at all? Edam's Laura Martin joining us now with some of her top picks, of course, famously downgrading Netflix, I think, twice in 2019. It's turned out to be a great call, Laura. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You know, I do wonder, we're always like this versus that, Disney versus whatever. I mean, how much of the audience or the American population, if they cut the cord on cable, can afford most or all of them?
You know, I mean, I think 40% of Americans have Apple iPhones, and I think the other 60% really view TV as a luxury because they have more life-based expenses first. So I think Netflix was a cheaper alternative to cutting the cord at the beginning. But now my view is that everybody who wanted to cut the cord just cut the cord. And people understand the value proposition of cable. And if they still have cable, that's because they watch live sports or they love having 200 channel optionality, or they just don't want to, cancel the undergo the screaming when they turn off Nickelodeon or History Channel or Military Channel, which are on no skinny bundle. So I don't think the entrance of new streaming services makes people want to cancel the cable bundle.
But rather than trying to pick one streaming service over another, what you've done, your favorite pick in streaming for 2020 is a company that facilitates streaming, Roku.
Yes, it is. It's an aggregator, so it doesn't care whether Disney wins or Apple wins or HBO Max loses. It just aggregates everything. It's like an arms dealer.
How much more, how much higher can it go? I mean, I guess it comes down to where we are in the cycle for streaming right now. Where is that, do you think?
So, I mean, I think streaming will get more competitive, and I think winners will be defined by branding, balance sheets, and bundling. But I think this is a war that's going to take 3 years to play out, and they just market more on Roku, which is to say they need subscribers. So customer acquisition cost is going to go through the roof, and that means spending, and Roku has 42% of connected homes. So the best place to spend is on Roku, telling you that there's a new series available on Disney Plus or on Apple Plus.
And another company you like, Laura, which, again, is sort of to Bill's point, helps facilitate advertisements across a number of platforms, is sort of the oddly named The Trade Desk. I've never heard of them. You look at their name, you're thinking, is this some kind of a stockbroker, E.F. Hutton? What is it? No, they do digital and online advertisements. TTD is the ticker. Why do you like the name?
So I like it because I think there's going to be a huge explosion of advertising demand. They're saying $10 billion of political spending. And ad units on television are fixed at about 14 minutes an hour. And Trade Desk facilitates putting ads all over the open internet, connected TV, but also on NewYorkTimes.com, WashingtonPost.com. And so I think Trade Desk is a beneficiary of higher advertising demand in 2020, not just connected TVs.
But that stock is already up 133% to this year, not counting today's rally. It's still going higher. It's not already in the stock?
Nope, like Roku was a triple, Trade Desk was a double. I think that you can maybe get those kinds of results next year again. That's my hope.
How much pushback did you get on your Netflix downgrade? I mean, I think you're the only sell on the street. There might be one more. 70% of analysts have it as an overweight or a buy. I mean, are you in hiding? Or are you okay? Are you in a safe house?
Yeah, exactly. I have moved to a safe house. The Russian mob is protecting me because everybody hates me.
But I'll bet you're still watching The Crown.
Nope, I'm watching The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. It's an excellent show, and I love Baby Yoda.
All right, there you go.
Laura Martin, who's doing well out there, and just don't go near their headquarters. Laura, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Our Happy New Year. We'll see you soon, Laura. Take care.
To the bond market we go now. Rick Santelli tracking the action of the CME. Rick.
Yes, we are tracking all the action, whether it's Santa's sleigh or bond yields, and look at an intraday of 10s. You know, we're up a basis point, and the rest of the curve is basically up about equally as much, but it's an important day nonetheless. Notice the high yield right around 193. Open the chart up 1 week, and you can see, boy, we're right up against that resistance again. Open it up to July. The mid-190s, you can see how important they are. We keep knocking on the door, and traders, they keep buying against it. And it's not only here. Look at the formation since July in 10-year boons. The number's different. Ours is 195. Theirs is minus 22. But it's the same pattern, and traders are watching it closely. Just like we're watching the holidays coming up. And from everybody here at the CME and myself, I'd like to wish all viewers happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Happy Santa Claus rally!
From Chicago. Back to you.
Is that one of those? So that's the fifth Nigerian.
I think I recognize that, Santa. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Santa. When we come back, we're in the home stretch for the countdown to Christmas. As you could just tell, how make or break is this holiday season for some of the retailers who've been beaten down. Macy's, The Gap, Kohl's, to just name three. We'll go inside the numbers when Brian and I come back.
Looks, catches, arm goes in the end zone. Touchdown underneath the crossbar.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium. Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Goes up, dart toward the end zone. Caught ball, touchdown with a touchdown to the left corner. Bucs take the lead.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Smart Sports Wagering Talk is now on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. The Better Network is now on TuneIn. Search BETR. Be better informed. Be better prepared. And remember, cash and tickets is what it's all about.
TuneIn is remembering the biggest college sports moments of the decade, like this one from 2016, when Tennessee quarterback Josh Dobbs throws a Hail Mary to the end zone as time expires against Georgia.
4 seconds to go. Dobbs drops back, looks, loads up, fires long for the end zone. The pass is going to be caught by Tennessee. Tennessee wins! Caught it by Tennessee. Jawan Jennings. Jennings makes the catch in the end zone on the Hail Mary.
Search college sports on TuneIn to be there for the moments that go down in history.
Hi, I'm Tom Haberstroh, host of the Haberstroh podcast. I'm partnering with TuneIn to answer a few questions and get you prepped for NBA Christmas Day. I wanted to start an NBA podcast because I wanted to take you behind the scenes and hear it from the people that make the NBA tick. It's the most intimate platform for the most intimate sport, and podcasts are the perfect medium to capture that intimacy. Search The Haberstroh to listen to new episodes every Friday throughout the NBA season on TuneIn.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Along the goal line, scores! It takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
Hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Move, hit a shot, he scores!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
So here we are in the home stretch of the Christmas countdown. It's been a wild year for retailers again, facing headwinds from tariffs, shorter holiday shopping season, the online shopping boom, and it's also been a record-breaking year for store closures, over 9,000 of them from names like Sears, Kmart, Walgreens, and many more. And that's a 50% jump from last year, and it outdoes 2017, which was the previous record for closures in retail. Joining us with their outlook on that sector, Liz Dunn is founder and CEO of Proforma, and Charlie O'Shea is VP and Senior Credit Officer at Moody's Investor Service. Good to see you both. Liz, you've been out doing channel checks. What are you seeing here? How's this thing shaping up?
Super Saturday looked fantastic from many accounts, but so far the numbers for the full holiday season look maybe a little bit soft. So we'll see where Super Saturday really came out in terms of that last minute shopper. But overall, I think the holiday was mixed.
Charlie, you were out, you were just telling us, Saturday?
Yep.
And
King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, the ultimate mall.
It was packed there. I was just telling you, my wife just texted from a Bed Bath & Beyond. She said it was chaotic and there was nothing on the shelves anymore.
Today's a huge day.
So they sold out.
So
did she throw in the towel?
Both of them.
Throw in the towel?
Yeah, I'm with you. I got you. Go ahead, Charlie.
Today's a huge day. And this is the day where brick and mortar can really hit its stride, because if you want to order something online, you're really rolling the dice with delivery tomorrow. Amazon has been, going pedal to the metal with next day delivery. I've got something coming to my house tomorrow that I ordered yesterday. I'm pretty confident it'll get there, but putting something in, ordering something today for delivery tomorrow might be tough. For a brick and mortar guy, you can order something today, pick it up in the store later on in the day. For those that are open tomorrow, you can pick it up tomorrow. So this is a day where brick and mortar can really hit its stride.
Liz, everybody seems to love Lulu, what they're doing, particularly in the mail space. Are they actually performing up to everybody's clearly very high expectations?
Expectations were clearly high heading into the last quarter, but I think they delivered on many accounts, and I think the stock was off a little bit, but overall they have so many growth levers that it's just phenomenal. Category, as you mentioned, in men's, geographic, and then channel, and they have dominance online. They really have a very, very strong, relative to most other retailers, most other apparel retailers, strong online presence, and so they can fulfill however a customer wants, and they have a coveted brand, which is important.
Charlie, I mentioned the record number of store closures so far this year, 9,300 overall, and we still got another week to go here. But who are you watching now for after this holiday season? Who's on your watch list for other problems down the road?
There's a bunch of them. I mean, we maintain that CAA and below list. It's been hovering in the mid-teens. Some of the names on that list, Pier 1's on that list, Ascena's on that list, J. Crew's on that list. I think, again, if you were to throw a dart at that board of those names and hit one, you'll find somebody that may be scrambling this holiday and beyond.
But isn't this healthy for the industry overall to see this kind of closure?
I think so. I think that, I've used the term retail Darwinism in the past, and I think it is healthy. I think the problem is, while we're going through this, think about when Sports Authority went under a few years ago. If you're Dick's, what do you do when they're having the going out of business sale? Do you cut your prices or not? Sometimes the toughest thing for a retailer is that desperate competitor, not a strong, formidable competitor, because they're running for cash. And that's something that needs to come out of the system.
Liz, let's look forward. What do you think are going to be the one or two key defining trends of 2020 for retail?
I think those retailers that are best positioned to fulfill buy online, pick up in store. I think that's really, really important, and the ability to do that profitably. You look at someone like Target and the fact that they're saying an order that's fulfilled buy online, pick up in store looks more like a store order in terms of profitability. That's very, very important, and retailers that can get there are going to win long term.
As long as the job market holds out, I guess, huh? I mean, hiring has slowed. And that can't be good for retail at some point, right?
Absolutely. I think the job market is in a period of transition. There are going to be new jobs that come as a result of the transformation that retail and many other industries are undergoing. But if we have a recession, all bets are off, and retail becomes an underperforming sector for sure, even though the consumer has held up quite well thus far. But I think absent a recession, there will be a transition in how people are working, and I think the consumer should remain strong with record low underemployment at this point.
Will JCPenney be around in a couple years, Charlie?
That's an interesting comment. I don't cover the company. There's challenges at JCPenney, definitely.
Who do you like for 2020?
Oh my gosh, the big guys. We've talked about the big four, big five in the past: the Walmarts, Targets, Best Buys, Amazons, Costco's of the world. The off-price guys, TJX, Ross. The dollar stores are doing really well right now. So that's the higher end of our rating scale are the ones that we think are going to do the best.
Liz Dunn, Charlie O'Shea, back to the malls with you. And Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Merry Christmas to you, too.
All right, up next, from the online gambling boom to baseball's big year to soaring franchise values across the sports landscape, 2019's been a big year. Can the good times last? Into the 20s, we're going to talk sports, business, money, and maybe what happens to the Los Angeles Chargers. Stick around.
How's work? If you're not loving your job and you're getting those Sunday blues, now's the time to make a change. With a LinkedIn app, it's now easier to find and land the job meant for you. There are millions of jobs on offer, and the LinkedIn app helps you hear about them first. Research shows applying within the first 10 minutes increases your chances of hearing back by up to 4 times. Stay in the know and grow your career. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Hi, I'm Tom Haberstroh, host of the Habershow podcast. I'm partnering with TuneIn to answer a few questions and get you prepped for NBA Christmas Day. My favorite NBA Christmas memory is, I got to go with 2010 Heat Lakers. First year of the LeBron in Miami, going to the Staples Center against Kobe and the defending champion Lakers. Everything said the Lakers were going to win that game, but LeBron had a triple-double and blew out the Lakers. Search The Haber Show to listen to new episodes every Friday throughout the NBA season on TuneIn.
As we play out the 2010s, TuneIn's looking back at the music trends that defined the decade. The 2010s saw yet another revolution in the way we listen to music. With music fans giving up CDs and digital downloads for streaming services and internet radio like TuneIn. At the same time, vinyl sales continue to rise to levels not seen since the format's original decline. Keep listening to TuneIn for more trends of the 2010s.
Hey, NFL fan, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to every NFL game live as it's happening.
LaShawn McCoy has an opening on the right side. Punches into the end zone for the touchdown.
Or catch it later on demand.
Offset backs behind Mahomes. The give is to Williams. Starts right, cuts it back to the left, and flows into the end zone for the touchdown.
You call the plays. Follow the NFL anytime, anywhere, all season long with TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Be better informed, be better prepared. The Better Network is on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search BETR and start hanging out with me and my guys in the desert weekday afternoons. The Better Network is now on TuneIn.
Spend Christmas Day listening to the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Featuring 5 big matchups on the holiday schedule. Unwrap the action starting at 12 Eastern when the Celtics take on the Raptors in Toronto, followed by the Bucks and the 76ers at 2:30. The holiday cheers continue with the Rockets and Warriors at 5 and the Clippers and Lakers at 8. And a showdown between the Pelicans and Nuggets at 10:30. 'Tis the season with the NBA on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
All right, it's been a big year in sports business, from mega TV deals to huge player contracts to online gambling. One of the ongoing challenges is just filling seats at stadium. Take a look at the Dolphins-Cincinnati Bengals game yesterday. This is how it looked in the stands. The home team was kicking the game-winning field goal.
Look how excited the people were.
All 8 of them. So as we head into the next decade, what can the NFL and all the league do to attract more fans? George Pine is founder and CEO of Bruin Sports Capital. Honestly, at least they had fans, George. I mean, the Dolphins had fans. I'm a San Diego Chargers fan, and I say San Diego.
Los Angeles
I am a San Diego Chargers fan. The team has lost me. I think they've lost a lot. You watch the stands; they don't show them on TV. It's all the other teams' fans cheering "Skol," and Green Bay Packers and waving the terrible towels. Does the NFL have a massive problem on its hand, or do you think it'll just over time it'll work itself out?
I don't think it's a massive problem, but it's getting harder to sell tickets to everything. Okay, so there's so much for people to do. That 2 bad teams 25 years ago probably would have had a lot more people there. Today, there's a lot of good things to do, and so it's getting a lot harder to sell tickets to everything, especially those to not a good game. And in the case of the Chargers, they're in transition, so that's
who would want to play for the Chargers? I mean, what player? They don't have a home game.
Well,
they don't have home games.
When they go to that new stadium, they're going to have the work cut out from it. They're going to have to build a fan base. It won't be easy, and it's going to take time. They're in transition. That's the risk the NFL took when it decided to go to LA. It was not without risk.
What about Major League Baseball?
They have bigger stadiums. So Yankee Stadium's 3 times the size as Madison Square Garden. Well, how many? And they have 20 twice as many games. So it's getting harder to sell tickets, and they have a lot of tickets to sell.
And how many do they need to bring in?
A lot, but they have to sell 195 million tickets a year. That's a lot of tickets. There are more choices for people to do things today than there were 20 years ago.
But, it's not just Major League Sports. People aren't going to the malls now. They're not going to the movie theaters. Ticket sales for Hollywood down as well if you take out the Disney impact. I mean, people are just staying home more.
Well, there's more to do, okay? Sports is still quite strong. I mean, 49 of the top 50 programs on TV are sports. You look at the PGA Tour, just did a record media deal.
The Southeast Conference went from $55 million for Saturday afternoon games to $330 million.
And yet the ratings for PGA Tour are down hard, but they're signing these record deals. What about the impact that gambling is going to have on all these sports?
It's going to have a really good...
Where the growth is?
It is going to have a very good impact. Now, you're 19 times more likely to watch something on TV if you bet on the game. And it's really going to connect yourself with the avid fan. So, yes, gambling is going to drive in, particularly with the core fan.
Are you familiar with this phenomenon?
I am familiar. I live in New Jersey. It is legal, by the way.
Yes.
And the under on the Jets-Steelers game was a complete lock. Anyway, when you look at these stadiums, I know people, George, they're afraid of violence. They're afraid of terrorism. I'm not kidding. And they don't like to be in these big spaces that are hard to get out of. Do you think any of that is pushing people away in some cases? Just that the cost, the fear, the combination of everything.
I don't think it's the safety issue as much as there's just other great stuff to do. I mean, people are consuming content in all kinds of devices. It's hard to sell tickets to anything. And therefore, what the league's going to have to do is find things like gambling and develop great relationships with their core fans. It's going to get harder to get people to go places. As you point out, not just games, but the malls.
Well, you're the former CEO of NASCAR. I'm a big gearhead. You look at the stands and, Michigan or Pocono or what, they seem to be half empty.
Well, it's an issue that my friends in NASCAR, when I used to talk to them, they said, what do you think? I said, I'd fill the stands. Because what happens NASCAR has been 13 or 14 years of shrinking audience. You're less likely to sponsor. And if you're watching TV, I'm not going to watch something that nobody's at. So filling the stands, it's an important part of the business equation. It's not getting easier, and therefore you're going to have to become better at it.
But yet, we have a definite haves and have-nots phenomenon going on in Major League Sports. The valuations of some of these teams are just astronomical. The Cowboys and the Patriots and,
the Knicks. Look at that chart. $4 billion for the Knicks, Bill. They haven't won a game since.
Look, millions of people are tuning in.
How do you say a sports franchise is successful? Just by its valuation or by how its team is doing?
Well, the people are experiencing sports franchises in a lot of different ways outside of just going to the game. And on television, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like live sports. Like I said earlier, 49 of the top 50 events on television are sporting events. So sports is strong, but it's getting harder to sell tickets to everything. But on the media, digital consumption, other things, gambling, fantasy, it's very vibrant and still very strong. And, the Super Bowl sold out on television. The Olympic Games advertising is very strong. There are a number of metrics right now that I'm very bullish on sports, but it's getting hard to sell two bad football teams. Sell those tickets, it's hard to sell.
MLS going to Charlotte. I mean, MLS has been a spectacular investment, right? I mean, the teams went for $25 million. Now they're $500-600 million. Are we going to have a $1 billion MLS team, or do we have one already?
You will have a $1 billion MLS team. And look, esports is coming on too. More and more people are tuning into esports.
Incredible.
So sports is strong, but changing.
Yeah, it's evolving, that's for sure.
George Pine, a real pleasure to have you on. Tell your brother, by the way, Jim, probably the best lineman Virginia Tech ever produced.
That's right. I taught him everything.
I was there when I was there. Tell him hello.
Go Hokies.
Go Hokies. I love it. Go Hokies. Thank you.
We've got Check Please coming up next.
You know it's out there somewhere, but you just keep missing out. I'm talking about your dream job. Now it's easier to find and land your next role with the LinkedIn app. Build connections, keep in touch, and be the first to hear about new jobs. LinkedIn has more openings than applicants. And sometimes all it takes is one LinkedIn connection to land the job that's right for you. Don't miss out. Get your next big break and find the job meant for you. Download the free LinkedIn app today.
Floor 32, last one. Computers sleep peacefully, bins full of the day. Vacuum follows faithfully. A forgotten desk lamp, switch it off, let it rest. Outside, black softens to deep blue, hinting at the day to come. Time to pack up, to disappear once more. Sausage and egg McMuffin awaits.
Over 700 McDonald's open 24 hours. We are awake.
Looks, catches on, goes in the end zone. Touchdown underneath the crossbar.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium. Tonight, TuneIn has your Monday night NFL football with the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Kickoff at 8:15 p.m. Eastern.
Those up, dart toward the end zone. Caught ball, touchdown with a touchdown to the left corner. Bucs take the lead.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
The Better Network is now on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search the Better Network. That's the BETR Network. And then let us get you better prepared to better enjoy the day in sports. The NFL, college football, basketball, hockey, baseball. Sharpen your edge. The Better Network is now on TuneIn. Be better informed. Be better prepared. Search the Better Network. That's BETR.
Hi, I'm Tom Haberstroh, host of the Habershow podcast. I'm partnering with TuneIn to answer a few questions and get you prepped for NBA Christmas Day. All right, the NBA game I'm most looking forward to is, it's got to be Lakers-Clippers, a clash of West Titans, LeBron and AD, Kawhi and Paul George, LA versus LA. Both teams will be rested and at home, so no load management talk. This is going to be a great one. Search The Habershow to listen to new episodes every Friday throughout the NBA season on TuneIn.
Check, please. Are you a pro tennis fan? Enough. I'll bet you bet the tournaments, the major tournaments.
No, I just like to watch them because they're so good.
Kim Clijsters is coming back from retirement again. She has retired not once, but twice in her career. She retired in 2007, had children, got married, came back and won 3 majors, and then she retired in 2012, and now she's coming back yet again. And as I said on Twitter a little while ago, she has retired more than I have.
Well said. Let me ask you, is it okay ever to give up on a team? I'm a 40-year Charger fan.
I know where you're going with this.
You're an LA guy.
I'm an LA guy, and I'm a Chargers fan as well.
I don't want to. Are you?
I am. Well, I told you I have a connection with the team.
That's true. I did not know that. Do they make it? What happens to them? I find it hard to root for them when they have no...
When you consider the number of seats that they were expecting to sell, they were expecting
a lot.
How many?
A lot. 40,000, I think, was the estimate I read in the ESPN. Not many.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not nearly that. I don't know. It's tough. Any Chargers fans out there? Bill and I were with you because I don't know where we're going, to be honest with you.
Go Chargers.
Thanks for watching.
Closing bell starts right now.
Welcome to the closing bell. I'm Morgan Brennan in for Sarah Eisen at the Boeing Post, with that stock rallying up 3%, leading the Dow higher. That, of course, after the company fired CEO Dennis Muhlenberg in the wake of the 737 MAX crisis. We've got full coverage of that and the broader market in this last hour of trading.
And I'm Carl Quintanilla in for Wilfred Frost. Let's look at what's driving the action today. S&P 500, a new intraday high as the year-end market rally rolls on. NASDAQ also hits a high as well and looks to extend its win streak to 9 days, the longest streak since 17. Some mixed data today. New home sales top estimates, but durable goods orders did miss the mark. Joining us for the hour, Stephanie Link from Nuveen, a TIAA company. Stephanie, good to see you this afternoon. What do you think is driving the action right now, if the calendar is so devoid of data points?
So much for a slow day, though, today,
that's
right?
true.
I mean, you had Boeing. You had over the weekend China small stimulus, which I didn't think got a lot of press. It should have. And the data I thought was okay today. Durable goods can be explained away from Boeing, right? For the most part. New home sales up 17% year over year. I think that's good. Chicago Fed at a 2-year high. So I think momentum between now and the end of the year to kind of continue. Green days. Maybe we tail off a little bit at the end of the year, but I think we're going to continue to see green days into the end of the year.
Well, we're on a nice streak so far. We'll talk more about what the next coming weeks are going to bring. Let's dive, though, into the biggest story of the day, and that is Boeing firing CEO Dennis Muhlenberg. Our Phil LeBeau has the latest on that. Hi again, Phil.
Hey, Carl. Dennis Muhlenberg was fired after the board met over the weekend. The decision was made Sunday night, and yes, this was not him resign. It was the board saying, nope, you're out. And David Calhoun is the incoming Boeing CEO. He takes over on January 13th. Really, from the get-go this morning, I've heard from a number of people that Calhoun has wasted no time getting on the phone and reaching out to key stakeholders. The happened this morning. He called Steve Dixon, the head. During that phone call, he said that Boeing welcomes rigorous oversight. He also told Dixon, we want to be regulated. A definite change in tone from Boeing's leadership compared to what they've had with the FAA over the last 6 to 9 months. So does that mean that we're going to see the MAX back in the air anytime soon? hold on. We've still got to see several hurdles cleared by this plane before MAX recertification. And remember, they have decided to halt 737 MAX production starting in January. So you're still looking at a first quarter with a number of things that have to happen, including MAX recertification. Maybe you could see the assembly line fire back up again. But clearly, the stock moving higher on word that David Calhoun has sent a message out that there is a new man in charge at Boeing and a new approach to doing business.
All right, Phil, thank you. Stay right there. Let's bring in Sheila Kayalu, analyst from Jefferies, and Mike Boyd from aviation consultancy firm Boyd Group International to discuss all of these changes. Sheila, I'll start with you. We were talking a little bit earlier today. Well, since then you've published a note. You've been able to dig in a little bit more to what the leadership changes mean. What do they mean?
So I don't think Calhoun's going to do anything radical here, but what Boeing needed right now is somebody with operational experience that will get a high volume product out the door on time without any flaws and will mend the relationship with the FAA. And you have that with the CEO, and you have a chairman who was formerly CEO of Continental Airlines, so a good relationship with its customer base and also the lessors, which are 1/3 of the customers.
Mike, are we in uncharted territory here in terms of how this crisis is playing out and now the changes with leadership?
It's never happened before, and the change of the leadership is good. The problem we have is what's going to happen out there in the marketplace. I mean, airlines keep if they don't want to go with Boeing, they can go with Airbus. Airbus has one production line they might be able to crank up called the A220. That may change things, but overall, until Boeing comes back up, the airline industry across the globe is going to be in slow growth.
Stephanie, I'm wondering, we're hearing more and more transports don't count because of the mess that Boeing is, because of the mess that GM, some others were. What do you think that's true? Got to look to some other sectors to get the canary in the coal mine?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to look at industrials as a whole. It's not just transports. And I would actually say that some of the machinery names are acting quite a bit better. I mean, look at Caterpillar every day, a little bit of green. Look at United Rentals. As to Boeing, I think this is the peak of bad news today, right? I mean, I know the stock is up, but this was bad news to lose a CEO. However, it clears the decks now, right? And I think that that's what this company needed. I think people were losing confidence. Investors were losing confidence, right? The FAA certainly was losing confidence. The government is starting to lose confidence. So I think this is, now we have this put behind us, and you can kind of focus on, okay, next steps. And I think that the timing is obviously key. When they do get certified again, I do believe they will, this stock goes a lot higher.
The way this typically works, Sheila, is new CEO comes in and kitchen sinks it, right? So should we be prepped for bad news in January?
We're already pricing in concessions doubling from what they announced in July, as well as the charges on the 737 MAX program. So we've already cut our profitability and we've cut our free cash flow number by $55 over the next 3 years. So we're still pricing that in and maintaining our 420 price.
And this is really a free cash flow story, 2023, right? And about $32 a share.
Exactly. It's 2022, 2023, and how quickly Boeing could get rid of the inventory that it has, because it has 400 aircraft just sitting there consuming that inventory when it liquidates it, when production starts back up, and when return to service starts back up.
Phil, has there been any kind of reaction on the heels of this news, either from suppliers or from the airlines?
Definitely from airlines. I've talked with a number of executives today, and everybody's saying the same thing is, look, I don't want to give my name, I don't want to go on the record, but let me tell you something. I heard from David Calhoun today, and boy, that was a nice phone call to get. And they understand that it doesn't mean that the MAX is going to be back in the air any sooner, but it helps to reach out to the customers. And it's not just Dave Calhoun who is is doing this. It is Stan Deal, who's in charge of commercial airplanes. Greg Smith, the CFO, was also on the phone with key stakeholders today. Tim Keating, in charge of government operations out of Washington, D.C. And we've heard from a number of representatives on Capitol Hill who have said, we welcome the change at Boeing. I think this all falls under the umbrella of a new approach to doing business. Again, nobody's expecting miracles overnight, and nobody's saying that David Calhoun's going to come in and say all is well, but they do need to turn the corner, and this is the first step in doing that.
Mike, a new approach to business, but what does it mean in terms, at least getting into this point, what does it mean in terms of possible tail? Or increased business for Airbus?
Well, I think overall they could lose some customers. Look, it's not outside reality that Southwest might say, wait a minute, this single supplier may have to go away. But overall, let's keep in mind, in the U.S., it's been American, Southwest, United, and a little bit Alaska. They're the only ones that have been affected. And other than Southwest, they all have different access planes. But I think going forward, if they can get this airplane up smoothly, which I think they will, it's going to take all year. But when they get it up smoothly, the U.S. airline industry is going to be a whole lot stronger than it was before.
Maybe the thing to watch out for now is a carrier saying we're standing by Boeing, right? Wouldn't that be a logical thing to have on your radar?
Yeah, you've seen sort of the carriers waver for the last couple of weeks, and the headlines got more negative. But we have a 4,500 backlog on the 737 MAX. All but 50 have not changed, so that was a very good sign, and maybe we'll see more supportive comments from the management teams coming out.
Bill, you're already starting to see some... Oh, go ahead.
No, let's keep in mind that there have been sales for the MAX. I mean, IAG, the parent of British Airways, did put in a 200 airplane order. The MAX is going to be here to stay. The question is, how much hit is it going to be on Boeing? But for the U.S., it hasn't been that big a hit, except for Southwest Airlines, and they may make some different fleet changes going forward.
So, Phil, I wanted to go back to the board of Boeing for a minute. There's already been some pushback. Ralph Nader, for example, came on the network earlier in the day, said the entire board needs to see an overhaul. Would you expect to see that there is going to be more pushback or maybe more critical, analysis of the composition of it?
Good question. I'm not expecting major turnover at the board level. I think now that you've got Larry Kellner, a longtime Continental executive who is going to be the chairman of the board, perhaps you will see him put out some kind of a clear statement in terms of here's the approach of the board. But look, we usually in these kinds of situations, you don't hear from the board very often after the CEO has changed here. But this is not a usual situation. Having said that, I do not expect big turnover on the board of directors at Boeing.
Sheila, before we wrap up this conversation, I'm going to take it back to defense for a minute, because part of the reason Boeing has aggressively been able to underbid competitors and win some of the most high-profile defense contracts in the last couple of years before all of the MAX happened was because of the cash flow and the strength of the commercial business. What happens now to that piece of Boeing's portfolio?
It's flat. It doesn't move while the rest of defense is up 5%. No, I think what we're overlooking is the president signed a defense bill on Friday, and we have a defense budget that's $738 billion. And that brings me to my top pick, LHX in defense, and I think defense is set for a rally here. So on Boeing, the defense outlook is pretty flat. It's all about execution and how they execute on those 3 program lines.
Stephanie's laughing because she knows I like to talk about aerospace and defense.
We could talk about it all day long.
We could.
And I. It'd be our show.
Phil, Sheila, Mike, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Starting off the hour. Still ahead on Closing Bell, the Fed's pivot from hikes last year to cuts this year has been a major narrative for the market. After the break, we'll take a look at what 2020 has in store for the central bank and the economy.
And later, fantasy sports site DraftKings making a play to go public. We'll hear what the CEO said about the decision and discuss the potential risks and rewards. Also, as we head to break, here's a check on our data. Home sales rose 1.3% in November, beating estimates of a drop of 0.4%. And durable goods orders fell in November, down 2%, missing estimates of a rise of 1.2%. Closing Bell, we'll be right back.
Interactive Brokers.
Christmas. A time for celebrating, unwrapping, and unwinding. Capture every moment with an epic iPhone 6S with a 12-megapixel camera. Now only $12.99 a month from Tesco Mobile, saving £72. It's just one of the ways we're celebrating 100 years of great value. Go in store or search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Saving £2 per month over 36 months was £14.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements required. Subject to status. Terms apply. See tescomobile.com/terms.
Hello, I'm Jo Brand. When I see people homeless over Christmas, I find it really upsetting. Whether they're sleeping in doorways, on buses, or in hostels, it just shouldn't be happening. But it doesn't have to be like this. This Christmas, crisis centres across Britain are providing warmth and safety, plus long-term support to find people a job and a home. Please reserve a place for someone at Crisis this Christmas for just £28.87. Go to crisis.org.uk now. Thank you.
Ho, ho, ho. Who's made a list this year?
I want a new phone, one with amazing cameras, ultra-wide lens, of course, live focus video. Well, it has to be 5G ready to stream all my films. Can it come with something awesome to listen to them through?
Darling, I think he was talking to the kids.
Get everything you want and more. Purchase a Samsung 5G ready device and claim a pair of silver wireless Galaxy Buds at no extra cost. Shop our 5G handsets in store or online at your local O2 store or o2.co.uk. 18 plus. Offer excludes Galaxy Fold 5G. Purchase by the 25th of the 12/19. Claim from Samsung within 30 days. T's and C's apply.
19p? What will that get you at Christmas? 5 minutes at a panto, a very unpopular Secret Santa. This week at Tesco, you can get sprouts, carrots, or parsnips from just 19p. Our festive 3. That should get you on the nice list. Tesco, delivering Christmas for 100 years. Selected stores excludes Express, ends 26th of December.
With 2020 on the horizon, TuneIn continues looking back at the stories that shaped the 2010s.
In 2011, Osama bin Laden is captured and killed by U.S. Special Forces after a decade-long manhunt. In 2016, Donald Trump is elected the 45th President of the United States after securing 304 electoral votes over Hillary Clinton's 227. And in 2018, a UN report stating the world has 12 years to prevent irreversible climate change.
Search news on TuneIn to be listening when the next decade's big headlines break.
We have got just over 45 minutes left to go. Here's a check on the markets. It is green arrows across the board after both the S&P and the Nasdaq hit fresh record intraday highs earlier in the session. Any gain for the major averages, the Dow, the S&P, and the Nasdaq, would mean new record highs this afternoon, so we are watch for that. Meantime, let's check on some individual market movers. Shares of Sarepta Therapeutics are jumping today after striking a $1.15 billion licensing agreement with Roche. Under the deal, Roche will launch and market Sarepta's gene therapy, oh boy, for muscular dystrophy outside the United States. That stock is up just about 8%. And JD.com's logistics unit is reportedly in early talks with banks about going public. JD Logistics is targeting a valuation of at least $30 billion. The listing could take place in the second half of 2020. And as you can see, JD's stock is up about 2.5% on that news.
All right, about 45 minutes left to go. 2019 ended up being Fed-focused with the Fed cutting rates multiple times, as you know. Let's get to Steve Leisman for a look at what investors should expect from the Fed and the economy in 2020.
Nothing is more central to the outlook in 2020 than what happens to the trade war. It looks to have depressed growth here at home and around the world this year. It led the Federal Reserve to reverse course and cut rates sharply in 2019. Here's what to look out for in 2020. First, the trade war should improve somewhat, or at least not get worse. As the year drew to a close, that seemed to be the case already with the announcement of a limited U.S.-China Phase 1 deal. Uncertainties will remain, but business will learn to invest and prosper in a world with a constant rumbling of trade disputes. Second, assuming a lot of damage hasn't already been done, that should help to lead to improved global growth. That could help lift U.S. growth towards 2.5% in 2020, or a half point above where it likely closed out in 2019. But third, the Federal Reserve should remain on hold while much of this plays out. It could consider raising rates if global growth also firms global inflation and other central banks start to hike.
For more on the 2020 Fed outlook, let's bring in Julia Coronado, founder of Macro